What's going on, fellow A Plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez. We're back once again with a brand new live episode of A Plus Hero Report, your weekly stop for your Marvel, DC movie, and television news. Brought to you guys live today here on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. But look, guys, we got 6 incredible topics we're gonna be talking about for you guys today. Not just myself, but we got our boy Stuart joining us here today. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, actually, here in Fort Worth, Texas. We did have ourselves a little bit of a daylight savings time jump backwards thing today, if I'm not mistaken. So wherever you guys are watching us, afternoon or morning, it's good to see you guys here. Stuart, man, good to see you. I missed you last week, buddy. It's good to have you back. How you doing, bro?
Doing really good. Good to be back. It's been a fun week for me. It's been just just enjoying the Halloween holidays, probably my favorite holiday of the year. Watching a bunch of horror movies. I saw a new one, or not new as in like just came out, but new as in I had never seen this
Never seen it
before.
before? Yeah.
And it's called Be My Cat, and it is really disturbing because it's so well shot that you actually would think that it's like I would say that for most of it, until it gets to like the actual actions of violence. I would say that the beginning part of it really feels like you're about to watch a snuff film, because it's a guy who has this really bad obsession with Anne Hathaway. So he starts filming himself, saying that he has this movie that he wants to do and he's going to pitch it to her. And so he hires several different actresses. And what's great about when he introduces himself to them, as far as I can tell, the actresses that he's introducing himself to don't know that this itself is part of the movie. So there's like a little bit of so it adds like kind of a little like a layer of realism. And so, of course, then he ends up killing them one by one, because his quote unquote, movie is about, an obsessed fan, which is of course what he actually is. So it's a very interesting movie. And apparently the actor himself, despite this all being scripted, despite the fact that of course none of it was real, apparently the actor got some death threats from people thinking that it was real. So it was my only nitpick is that, of course, it was a super, super low budget film. So, of course, when it came to like certain scenes, you kind of lose the realism when you get they're filming in public, or they're filming like in one scene in particular in like an apartment. So they have to come up with an excuse for like one of the characters not to scream as loud as any normal person would be screaming. And so that's the only times where you kind of lose the illusion. But other than that, it's kind of a fantastic movie. Highly recommended to anyone.
Yeah, we didn't. My girlfriend earlier this year was like, "Babe, you should do like a 31 days of Halloween and talk about or watch like a horror movie every day." And in my head, I was like, "That sounds great," but in the other side of my head, I was like, "That just sounds like so much content and work to have to do." So we didn't get a chance to watch many scary movies this year in October. Although I finally did get a chance to watch Weapons a few days back finally. Really enjoyable movie. I'm gonna be fair in the sense that I kind of like Barbarian a little bit more. But I still enjoyed Weapons, and I think Zach Krieger, just some of the things that he thinks of, I'm just like, how do you even think of something like this, man? But great movie overall. Great, definitely a standout this year for sure. Did you guys go? Well, look, I mean, we're like in our 30s and stuff. Well, I'm in my 40s, but any trick or treating done?
Oh
Like you?
no, we
No,
never get trick or treaters in our area for some reason. It's weird because there
really?
are kids that live around here, but I never see them trick or treating. So they probably go to like one of the other areas in the city that maybe they know they're going to get more candy from.
Yeah, we don't. We do have a lot of kids in our, up and down our block, but I never see anybody out on our street trick or treating. What we did this year is we took kiddo with us. He wore his firefighter outfit again. This time it actually fit him this year, which was great. But we take him to the rich neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And we just go up and down countless blocks. We were out there for maybe like 2.5 hours. He got a good load, man. He had a good time though. So We'll see how much now he's about to turn 4 here in like less than a week. So I think this might be his first year of like really enjoying some, not all, but some of his Halloween candy for sure.
Of course, of course. What did he dress up as again?
Firefighter.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
That's cool.
he was a firefighter on the back. It was it says captain. So he got a lot of compliments. Some guy was like, "Look at that. That's the youngest captain I've ever seen." You know? So it's like, yeah, he's a pretty bright kid. Um but yeah, it was cool because now he's more aware of what's going on around him, and he's able to look at the costumes and point them out, and like is able to tell what they are. He saw SpongeBob. He was like, "Oh, it's SpongeBob." He saw a couple of Power Rangers out there too. So some cool costumes for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know if he's definitely getting to that age of being startled and kind of scared a little bit. He did see some people with masks on, like the Terrifier and then like
Mm.
Jason and Freddy and stuff, and he's just like, he's just trying to stay away, or just kind of fascinated, like from a distance, like keeping his distance, but like looking. And every time we come across somebody, he'd be like, "Dad, look, a mask," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay, it's just a mask, it's not real." Um, but he's definitely getting to that age of like the dark is starting to scare him a little bit. So it's just interesting to see what your kids grow into, or like the stages that they get into.
Yeah. One of the most awkward Halloweens for me was like in 8th grade. I had this werewolf costume that I threw together. And it was from using a mask that I got at a Party City. And I was not trying to scare anyone. I was just, trick-or-treating. But if I happened to be staring in the direction, there were some kids that found my mask really terrifying. So like one girl, and I was trying to like not even look at her. Like I was like looking the other way because like I saw her like face like when she saw it. So I'm like, okay, don't want to ruin this girl's Halloween. So I'm like trying to walk away, but it didn't matter because like the moment we started crossing paths, she started crying and her mom had to like cheer her up. I'm like, I'm sorry. Oh, and it looks like you're frozen.
I think am I back yet?
Oh, there we go. You're back. Yes.
Okay, all right, cool. Yeah, man. I don't know if Halloween's my favorite time of the year, but it's definitely my girlfriend's time of the year for sure. I'm more of a Christmas, Thanksgiving type of guy, just because all the food and presents. That's definitely, and just the family time. That's definitely me.
Yeah, that's definitely my big thing. I love Christmas as it feels like that. I mean, it's not that I don't see my family, the rest of the year, but Christmas is like kind of that guaranteed day that like every year we're definitely, getting together at some point. So I think
Yeah,
that's what I love
absolutely.
about it.
Absolutely. Well, guys, look, we want to know, how did your guys' Halloween go? Did you guys dress up as anybody? Did you see any cool trick-or-treaters this year? Definitely go ahead and let us know. Did you watch any horror films in the month of October that really stood out to you? Definitely let us know in the live chat or the comment section box after this video airs. And look, remember, at the end of the day, guys, these are simply our A+ opinions as we go through all these topics today, but we always want to go ahead and know yours. If you want to join the conversation, you can always go ahead and drop your thoughts and comments in the live chat. We'll certainly go ahead and bring up your comments from time to time, just to go ahead and spark more conversation around here. But before we get into our first segment of the day, let's shout out some people that have already dropped some messages in our live chat. We got Enrique Perez here. Saw the official international trailer for Zootopia 2. It'll be arriving in theaters just days away. There's another movie that's a couple of days away that I'm kind of looking forward to. I think Predator Badlands
Mhm.
drops this week, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it like the 7th?
I didn't realize it till now, but that movie maybe I think it'll have a decent first opening weekend.
I think
But
so
after
too.
that, it's gonna be competing with Wicked, so I don't know how that's gonna do in
Ooh.
theaters. So it better have
Ooh.
a good
Well,
opener, I think.
yeah, I mean, if anything, yeah, I'm hoping it has a good opening weekend, but I'm hoping that they attract a somewhat of two different audiences. I'm sure some people that like, I'll definitely be trying to see both of them, but I'm
Mhm.
hoping that they attract different audiences. So maybe Badlands doesn't get eaten into too much by Wicked. But that's a good point. Behind the scenes featurette conclusion for the upcoming Wicked sequel, Wicked for Good, and will be arriving in theaters soon. Also, Warner Brothers Animation announced a new Hello Kitty feature film will be arriving in 2028 in theaters. He also says DreamWorks animation set casts for upcoming original animated movie Forgotten Island. It'll be arriving September 2026 before Shrek 5 and live actions Dragons 2. Let's see here. We got Ram Jam. What's up, Ram Jam? Good to see you in here. Now that the World Series is over, I'm gonna go back to watching more Super Sentai and more. I was literally just having a conversation with my uncle this week. He asked me if I had been watching the World Series, and I'm like, no, not really. Like I used to, I'm a big New York Yankees fan, even though despite me living in Texas, I've come to grow to appreciate the Texas Rangers also out here. But if anything, I've just fallen off of baseball so much over the past several years. And he's been telling me like apparently the ratings for baseball are like through the roof. It's got like a reinvigorated fan base now. Like it's becoming a really big. I don't want to say it fell off as a sport, but as far as like the attention that it's been getting, like Major League Baseball has been doing some good things. So he's kind of convincing me that maybe next year it might be time for me to check out baseball again. But we'll see. Do you watch
I have a
baseball at all?
No. Yeah, unfortunately, like I don't really keep up with sports too much. Like every now and then football, especially when I'm with my family, because they all love it. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm just not as much of a sports guy. Although I am predicting if the ratings for baseball are going up, I imagine it going up even more pretty soon, because I imagine some fans are not happy about like what's going on with basketball with the whole gambling
Oh,
scandal.
gambling stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, if you guys watch baseball, let us know. Shout out to the Los Angeles Dodgers that just won the World Series yesterday, back-to-back champions, if I'm not
Ooh.
mistaken.
My high school history teacher will be happy about that. He loves the Dodgers.
Nice. Shout out to Blossom in here. I appreciate you coming through. I'm worried. Is Super Sentai being canceled real? I swear to Queen Serenity, it can't be real. We'll see, Blossom. We'll talk a little bit about it for sure. Um, she said, sorry for freaking out about the news. Made me really scared. We'll talk about it for sure. Kiki and Luca in the house. Good to see you also. Appreciate you certainly coming through. Marcelly was such an asshole, I swear. Finally, Adam gets a co-host. Resubscribe. Thanks a lot. Yeah, last week you might have missed it. Sorry, last week he says Adam solo hosting, unsubscribe. I was like, that's so I can't even carry my own show anymore, man. Ram Jim says you get lots of candy on Halloween. Yeah, my boy, his bucket started getting actually a little bit too full, so they had to like start putting some of the overflow in like another bag. So yeah, he made out pretty good. I felt like it was starting off kind of slow, but like as the evening progressed, I mean the streets were getting pretty crowded. Marceline says, unfortunately, I didn't watch many horror movies, but I still plan on watching Chainsaw Man movie.
Ooh, that was a great movie. So I had read that part of the arc in the manga, so I knew exactly where it was going. I still teared up, man. It was just that well presented within the movie itself. So yeah, if you guys like Chainsaw Man, you'll love the movie. Definitely can't. I hope, as much as I like that they did this arc as a movie, I kind of hope that doesn't become the norm for Chainsaw Man. I kind of want them to go back to TV format, but oh, it was so good.
Nice. We got Sorav in the house. I feel like I haven't heard from Sorav in a minute. I feel like Sorav pops up when we talk Power Rangers or anything Super Sentai related. So I appreciate you coming by today, Sorav. Marcelino says I dressed up as V from Vendetta. Very
Ooh,
cool,
nice.
Marcelino. I need pictures or it didn't happen. Pictures or it didn't happen. Although I don't think you can send pictures here, but I would love to see that costume. Ram Jam, I spent my Halloween following the World Series. Marceline says, speaking of the Predator movies, the creator of the fan film Warrior Predator claims his movie is better than Prey. I'm sure, look, as a film creator, in the sense like you gotta bolster your own creation sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Hunter and Iggy just watched Wartsu. Huh? I just watched Wartsu say if Netflix releases Zack Snyderverse, it wouldn't be good long term. I don't know who Warstu is. Do you know who that is, Stuart? Have you ever heard of Warstu?
No,
So
I don't think so.
So yes, I guess it's somebody's opinion saying that if Netflix releases a Zack Snyderverse, it wouldn't be good long term. We'll see what happens with that. Things are actually heating up a little bit when it comes to this Warner Brothers Discovery bidding war, and we're definitely going to talk about it a little bit with you guys here in a minute. All right. But yeah, guys, keep letting those comments come in as we go through some of these topics. But let's go ahead and get this show kicked off with our first segment of the day. We're going to get into our honorable mentions portion of the show. For those of you who are new to the channel, honorable mentions is really our section of the show where these topics didn't quite make our top six, but felt that you guys certainly still deserve to know about it. I don't know. Did you have any honorable mentions today, Stuart?
Not really, which is why I'm just going to use my part of the honorable mention segment to once again rant about how awesome South Park is. They recently did a Halloween special where it would like the Halloween segment of it took place at the White House, and it was after tearing out the East Wing. They worried that they might have they might have unleashed some sort of ghost among the White House. So it was a pretty funny plot, and then on top of that, you have Stan basically kind of being the voice of like kind of, I don't want to call like a majority or even like that big of the fan base, basically making fun of the fans that are constantly saying the same thing about how South Park sucks now. So they have like this whole thing where Stan is just sick of the town of South Park. So of course he's constantly saying South Park sucks now and no one's doing anything about it. We all need to get together and make change to South Park because this is, you go back to how things used to be with South Park. It was a great episode. I'm loving even though it's weird that they put this new season as 2 seasons from the last episode, so making it like 2 5-episode seasons, which is really, really bizarre. I'm just gonna consider it all one season, so I'll just say that these last 7 episodes this season have been freaking awesome, exactly what I need, because like every time I turn on the news, like I want to rip my hair out. South Park gives me like a little levity. It's like one of those things where it's like I feel crazy at times with everything going on in the world, and I'm like, man, how is like how is this all happening, and no one, everyone seems so casual and normal about it. And so then I watch South Park, and it's like, because they show it all through an over exaggerated lens and just through comedy, it just makes me think, okay, I'm not crazy. Like other people are agreeing that this is not okay, what's going on, so that kind of a thing. So it's been great, and that's why every 2 weeks I will use my honorable mention segment to talk about South Park until the season ends.
I love it, man. I love it. A couple other quick honorable mentions too. Clayface is in the news here this week. Apparently, according to Tom Reese-Harris, the filming has in fact wrapped for Clayface. So it's now going into post-production, and it will in fact be dropping next year. I think October 2026 is their plan, but Clayface has officially wrapped filming. We also got news of a Crash Bandicoot animated series in the works over at Netflix. It says this would technically mark Crash Bandicoot's second appearance on Netflix through an original series. But yeah, story details are under wrap, and talent behind this series has yet to be revealed. But it looks like they're going to be getting us they've learned that Netflix has been quietly developing a Crash Bandicoot animated series. I don't think I've played Crash Bandicoot since the early days of PlayStation, to be quite frank with you. I don't know how they've utilized the franchise as a whole, but I certainly have not been keeping up with it. But yeah, Crash Bandicoot on the way. We also got Buck Rogers, believe it or not, is in the news. Deadline reporting that Legendary taps the Deadpool and Wolverine writer Zeb Wells to pen a Buck Rogers film. Plot details of Wells take her under wraps. News of Legendary deal for Buck Rogers rights first emerged back in 2020, with the studio reportedly eyeing a transmedia franchise that would include feature film, live action series, and anime series. There's no word yet on whether plans for the character on the television front remain active. For those of you who aren't familiar with Buck Rogers, though, he's a name that I remember as a kid, and I think even then it was kind of even old for me at the time. But it's based off of a novella published in the pulp magazine Amazing Stories back in 1929. The protagonist was actually introduced as a World War I veteran who ends up in suspended animation for roughly 500 centuries after being trapped in a collapsed Pennsylvania coal mine and inhaling radioactive gas. When he awakens in the 25th century, Rogers finds himself drawn into a struggle against foreign invaders. So it looks like they're trying to bring Buck Rogers into a more modernized time. I actually kind of be interested in seeing, like, if anything, I'd be interested to see like what changes they make to the Buck Rogers characters, like in the placement. Like, is he gonna be a World War I veteran still? Is he, or is a World War II veteran this time? Does he get released in the 25th century, or do they push it even further down the line? I would be kind of curious to see what liberties they take with modernizing Buck Rogers.
Feel like, yeah, Buck Rogers definitely has oh, actually, first, thank you so much for the super chat, Kiki and Luca. And then but yeah, I feel like there's a lot of potential with the Buck Rogers IP, and that's coming from someone who hasn't even seen the show or anything. The only thing I know two things about Buck Rogers. One was from the robot chicken sketch, where everyone kept pronouncing his name wrong, so they would have to censor it. So they'd be like, "It's Bleep Rogers." No, my name isn't Bleep Rogers. It's Buck Rogers. The other one is, of course, what Marcelino just put here, which is that it was the inspiration for Duck Dodgers.
Yeah, I did look. I was a big fan of Duck Dodgers in the 25th, 20 something and a half century. I can't remember what his slogan was, but I used to love Duck Dodgers. Yeah, shout out to Kiki and Luca again. Thank you for being a part of our Sunday routine for sure, Kiki and Luca. We really appreciate you each and every week always coming through and helping out support the channel. Um, he says, they say Buck Rogers was a great show, along with Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, I've only seen a couple of old school episodes of Battlestar Galactica. I'm very much more of a modern day Ronald D. Moore sort of Battlestar Galactica guy, which Stuart's got to watch someday.
At some point, yes. You know what? I really don't have an excuse because I binged literally every episode of Star Trek. So it's like, if I can do that, I can binge through Stargate or Battlestar.
I mean, I can't get on your case about watching the show or not. I've been trying to watch Avatar: Last Airbender for like how many years now?
That is
So
true.
yeah, it's been a minute. We also got news on the Doctor Who front here, not so stellar. Apparently Disney is ditching Doctor Who. Sources say that the ratings, big ticket budget, and MAGA politics were factors in a BBC deal failing to regenerate. It says Daniel Walden was in London earlier this month. It's safe to say that renewing Doctor Who was not among Disney Entertainment Chief's priorities. Sources have been telling Deadline for more than a year that Disney has been lukewarm on the sci-fi series, and that it was official come Tuesday that BBC confirmed that its Doctor Who co-production agreement had vaporized. That was a very short stint for sure of Doctor Who over on Disney Plus. We had Ncuti Gatwa as our doctor for 2 seasons, and by the end of it, he was regenerated into a familiar face in Rose Tyler, who was a previous companion of the Doctor very early on in the reboot of Doctor Who back in 2005, but kind of left things open ended. I am hearing word though that Doctor Who does plan on continuing. There is a Christmas story set to be released in 2026 that might continue the story. Whether or not Doctor Who continues after that I'm not sure. But the partnership, at least between Doctor Who and Disney, is officially over, Stuart. So yeah, check out the article if you want to. I saw that one on Variety, or maybe I was Deadline. I can't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a shame because like you get like a big property like Doctor Who, but you get it kind of like when it was already like I correct me if I'm wrong, comments, but as far as as I've heard, the ratings were already going down pretty low, and then you collect it, you get a hold of it at that time, and then on top of that, you get kind of like you know, I can't speak for the quality of the show, but I can say that you definitely have that toxic side of the internet that was ready to hate it the moment they showed that the person that was going to be playing Doctor Who was not only black but also gay, and so therefore you had that just toxic side of the internet ready to hate it before actually even watching it. It just it sucks. It was fighting, I feel like a real steep uphill battle. So this does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm just talking from like a quality standpoint, to be fair, I'll only watch the first two episodes of Shooty Got was run as the Doctor, and I just didn't care for it. It just didn't hook me immediately, storyline wise and stuff. So, I don't, after Peter Capaldi going into Jodie Whittaker stuff, I still kind of want to go back and check out Jodie Whittaker stuff. But I do feel maybe quality of the storytelling has kind of dropped a little bit, but who knows? Marcelina says, what does this mean for Doctor Who going forward? It's obviously not going to get canceled. It's too popular. Will it find a new streaming service? I don't think BBC will cancel it. If anything, it'll probably just air on BBC. If you've got cable or if you've got some sort of I don't know if Tubi or like Pluto TV, like if you can maybe get access to like a BBC network. I'm not sure. Maybe you can try and catch it that way. I mean, Doctor Who was certainly still being watched prior to its Disney Plus partnership, and so I expect it to still at least be on BBC. Will it find a new streaming service? I hope so. I hope so. I
I
thought
could
Doctor.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I could see it getting picked up by Paramount, and I say that because for a while the writers of Star Trek have really been wanting to do a crossover with Doctor Who, and so I think
Mhm.
that if Paramount were to like stream it on their website, that would be probably the easiest way for them to finally achieve that.
Who's the showrunner for his Star Trek stuff over there right now? Do you know? Like,
Um,
do you know like who's
yeah.
who's like the one that produces a lot of the big stuff. I want to keep saying Robert Kirkman, but I don't think it's Robert Kirkman unless I'm tripping.
That would be weird if Robert Kirkman was the current producer and I didn't know that. Okay, so it says the Kiva Goldsman, that's right,
Ah,
and
Kiva goes.
Henry Alonso Mayers are
Okay.
currently the ones in charge of everything going on with Star Trek.
So Rob said I thought Doctor Who was going to be simulcast on Disney Plus along with BBC for the next seasons. That was the plan. That was definitely the plan, but Disney has ended that relationship, so no more. They did it for 2 seasons, but yeah, no more of that. And then I thought this was actually kind of cool. Dolph Lundgren is back in the news here. According to Extra, He-Man actor Dolph Lundgren hints a role in the new Masters of the Universe
Ooh.
movie. Yeah, they were talking about a new Dolph Lundgren documentary, and he mentioned the idea possibly returning. I'm trying to see. Um, Let me see. Plus, as of what's next, could we see Dolph Lundgren, the OG He-Man, in the new Masters of the Universe movie? He answered, maybe. You'll have to check it out when it comes out. I think they were talking a little bit about his health. I guess his health hasn't necessarily been the greatest, but he's actually been doing relatively good here recently. He had a cancer diagnosis, I believe, back in 2015, but I think he's doing pretty good now. Um, but yeah, he just says, maybe we'll have to check it out when it comes out. It's not really like a confirmation or anything, but after him just teasing it, I'm like, I kind of want it now. I kind of want it now.
I was gonna say it'd be interesting if he wasn't, because then why would he tell people to check it out? Other than the fact that maybe he just wants people to see movies. Who knows? But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
With him saying you should check it out just in case, that kind of gives me the implication that he's in it.
yeah, I mean, maybe it's just a like a dear movie to his heart, and he just wants people to support the franchise. But I'm kind of thinking maybe he's in there as like a brief cameo. Like I was thinking maybe he should be like the king, Prince Adam's father or something. I think would be pretty dope. Maybe not a major role, but something small. I think that'd be neat.
Yeah.
Um, and then last but not least, we did have ourselves a brand new Scream 7 poster that wind up dropping. The film is set to go ahead and release in February of next year, February 27th. We did get ourselves a new trailer. I don't know if you did you check out the trailer at all for this, Stuart?
I did indeed. I
What'd you
uh
think?
I liked it. One thing I was really relieved to see because I was almost certain that they were going to go into this movie completely ignoring Scream 5 and 6, which would have been a shame because I feel like I know that that like neither the actor the or the main characters from those movies were coming back, but they were such great movies, and I feel like they were set up for just one more with the two of them, and I don't want them to close that book just yet. So it looks like they kept that open because we have one of the characters, one of the sibling who I totally forgot his name, but he's coming back because we see him in the
Oh
trailer for
yeah, I do
this
see
movie.
him. Yeah.
So that gets me excited. But yeah, the thing I'm always curious about is because they're always going after Sidney Prescott. I'm always curious, like, what could she have possibly done this time to piss this person off? And then they always find like some amazing convoluted way to make it all like kind of come full circle in a way, shape, or form. I love how this guy is trying to imply that he is either the original Ghostface who obviously died, or he's Matthew Lillard's character who technically we never have gotten confirmed that he died, but it's very clear that he likely did die. So it's like so I love how they're trying to like kind of play into that in the trailer, but I'm like 90% sure that's a red herring.
Marcelina says Joel McHale was barely shown in the trailer, and he plays Sydney's husband, so that gives off the vibe he's going to die. That's awesome.
Probably.
Probably. Yeah, you know what's interesting? We posted this trailer up on our Facebook page. It's gotten like 17,000 views already. Surprisingly, we actually hit gold on a couple of posts on our Facebook page. We last week or earlier last week we posted a trailer for Last Samurai Standing, a Netflix series, and that's gotten over 50,000 views already. And now our Scream 7 is getting a ton of reactions, a ton of shares from people. Like there's some excitement brewing in regards to Scream 7. And it's gotten, like I said, over like 17,000 views so far. So they're doing big numbers over there. But it's just interesting to read some of the comments. Some people really excited for it. Some people are like, oh, this looks like just a generic Scream film. Others like, let's boycott it. Others are like, I can't wait. It's just interesting to see the reactions for Scream 7.
Yeah, I think it's I'm like looking forward to it. I wouldn't say I'm like super hyped or anything, but I love the Scream franchise. I think like out of every Scream movie, the only one that I don't really like to rewatch just because it's boring to me is Scream 3. But like literally every other Scream movie, I don't think I've seen one that I hate. Honestly, like it's a very consistent horror franchise. Like they don't necessarily bring anything new to the table. I think the only one that kind of brought something new was the first movie in terms of like the way it balanced meta with sincerity. I think that like the balance was like kind of perfected, and that in a way that like no other movie had done before. But apart from that, none of them really break any ground. None of them add anything new. They're just fun mystery movies. And at the end of the day, when we get all the answers, that's kind of what makes them rewatchable, is that then you want to go back, watch them again, see if all this was like hinted at. And it's just fun to see if I guess who the killer is. Some of the times I get it right, some of the times I get it wrong. I got it mostly right in the last movie. Like I knew the detective was definitely one of the killers. I didn't expect the two kids to also be involved as well, but that's the kind of things that I love with the Scream franchise. Is like they're so crazy. There's just such fun mystery movies.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like when I watch horror movies or mystery movies, I'm pretty good about picking out like who did it or like something's off about a certain person like immediately, like they already are on my radar. Like we literally started watching when we started watching Weapons, and you get the kids' narration and stuff in the beginning, and it's kind of telling you everything that's kind of like transpired. And then the little girl, the narrator brings up Alex, the one like kid that didn't get taken, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just showing the back of his head the entire time. I looked at Cindy and I'm like, this Alex kid, There's something off with this kid. There's something off with this kid. I'm gonna pay attention to this kid this whole movie now. And I'm like, look, babe, like, like some fucking creepy is happening with this kid. Like I knew it. Like it's just, yeah, it's just screamed off, like something's off about it. So yeah, that's funny that you bring that up. Um, we have been trying to rewatch the Scream franchise, but I think if anything, I'm gonna wait till after the new year to maybe do that because right now we're watching Welcome to Derry, and we're also I'm trying to do a rewatch of Stranger Things right now. So after
Ooh.
Stranger Things ends, I might just dive headfirst into Scream to get ready for the February release. So we'll see how that goes.
Sorry, I don't mean to delay us anymore, but what do you think of Welcome to Derry?
I stopped the second episode right in the middle, but the first episode alone was like jaw dropping to me. There, you know, there is first off the aesthetics of the show. I love. I love the time period. I love the way that it's filmed. Andy Muschietti coming back to this world just feels right to me in regards to like the world building. The characters I feel like are really strong, especially his children characters. I I was not first off the ending was creepy. The beginning was creepy as f.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never seen anything so viscerally violent in my life, like a pregnancy like that on screen before. And like even the girlfriend like cringed up. Like it was just brutal to watch. But then the ending, I'm just thinking to myself, did they I yeah, the ending alone shocked me to where when we got to the beginning of episode 2, I don't think Cindy even believed that what happened really happened. You know, she thought maybe it was like a
Yeah.
vision or something or like a nightmare. And when they start talking about the bodies, I'm like, yo, that really happened. Like that's crazy. Like I was literally getting attached to these kids. Like I really like that kid. That kid's funny. Like I can't wait to see what the story's about. And then next thing you know, I'm like, well, I guess I gotta find new characters to root for now.
Yeah, I think that was what was so brilliant about that first episode is that they built it
It's
up
ruthless.
almost like exactly like the first It movie. Like they make you think that these are the kids that we're going to be following throughout the entire series, and then they kill most of them off except for two, and it's just like you don't expect that because you think that's exactly like they're set up to be the main characters. Like this is their first episode of Stranger Things, or this is like the first It movie. Did not expect that at all. That was incredible. And then the other thing too was my fiance and I were joking about the kid that wore the blue shirt, someone who's like super obsessed with like supernatural conspiracies. Like he was the one that made me laugh the entire time watching it. But then I'm also like watching the scene where he's like spying on the neighbor basically as he's changing, and I'm just kind of like, this kid is, if he survives this franchise, he's going to grow up to be a director that gets canceled.
Yeah, him spying on his neighbor, I couldn't stop laughing. I was like, yeah, that's a teenager, little teenager boy for you, man.
From the
Man,
50s.
yeah, from the 50s. It's
like
pretty
like
funny.
Marty McFly's dad.
Yeah, yeah. Peep and Tom stuff is pretty funny. But yeah, guys, those will do it for our honorable mentions. If you want to submit a live viewer question over, feel free to go ahead and submit your live viewer questions over. Just go over to our YouTube channel, click on the post tab, and there is a live viewer question post. Submit your question, and then we'll get to it towards the end of the show. But Stuart, are you ready to go ahead and tackle these main topics with me, man?
Always.
Let's do it. We got a great show for you guys today. We got lanterns are going to be our main topic here today. Some other DCU news felt that you guys certainly deserve to know about. Super Sentai, believe it or not, made our top 6 topics here today. Certainly worth discussing as it seems the brand might be going in a different direction. We got some Call of Duty news and much more for you guys. So let's go ahead and kick off today's show talking about none other than DCU Lanterns. This show has been wrapped for several months now, deep into post production. And surprisingly, we have not seen much of this show, with the exception of like the very first look that we got of Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan and Aaron Pierre as John Stewart. Hal Jordan here rocking his Green Lantern ring. But outside of that, Stuart, we have not seen anything for this. It's been really kept under lock and key. But this week we do have a couple of updates here in regards to the showrunner Chris Mundy talking a little bit about the series itself, along with a potential release date for the movie or for the television series. So let's just dive into really the Chris Mundy interview here, and talk a little bit more details about this upcoming series itself. Um, let me pull this up here real quick to make sure we got this going. All right, perfect. For those of you who don't know, when it comes to Chris Mundy, he's fresh off of the Ozark series, if I'm not mistaken, which was really popular for a period of time. Lanterns was also written by Damon Lindelof, who did one hell of a job on one of my favorite comic book television series in Watchmen. You combine those two together, brilliant writers with brilliant ideas, along with Tom King, comic book writer, and we get ourselves Lanterns. This week on Men's Health, got the opportunity to sit down with Chris Mundy to talk a little bit more about this character. It says next year, Aaron Pierre stars in HBO's Lanterns. It's let me see. He says he plays John Stewart, a Green Lantern who holds an important place in both comic book history as one of DC's first Black superheroes and in the collective imagination of comic book fans as a beloved character. Stewart is an ex-Marine sniper as well as a skilled artist and architect, stoic but creative, someone who uses his Green Lantern powers to manifest meticulous, intricate constructs. According to Aaron Pierre, he says, for me, the character just radiates strength and fortitude, that hunger to be the best version of yourself, which also holds you accountable when you're not. Lantern's creator and showrunner Chris Mundy, known for his writing on Ozark, Bloodline, and True Detective, spoke to us for Pierre's cover story and offered insights into Pierre's casting, his reverence for the character, and much more. So let's go ahead and dive into this. How did you begin considering Aaron for the role of John Stewart? He says we looked at a ton of people. Then we then met with a bunch of candidates. Then Aaron and Damon Lindelof, all and I went just grab some coffee here at Warner Brothers. He's a quiet guy by nature, but when you get him one-on-one, he has such a warmth. On a TV show, you need people you're working with to be good at their jobs, but also you're going to be living together for a long time. So it helps that we all like each other too. And I instantly liked him. What made him the right person for the role? It's a tricky role because there's a physicality to believing that someone is a superhero, and there's a physicality to the character of John Stewart. He was a Marine sniper, which requires a certain kind of focus and diligence. After the Marines, he becomes an architect, so there's an artistic side to him. There are a lot of elements that an actor has got to be able to project, and Aaron is someone who understands that physicality as a trained theater actor. We talked a lot about how being a Marine is John's job, but it's not his entire personality. He's such an artist as he is a Marine. There's a real balance of the physical and the artistic that's just innately inside of Aaron. And I think it's essential. If we're doing our jobs well as writers, we're not stating all this stuff out loud. We're trusting that our actors can fulfill that role. The audience has to believe that he could take a guy down with one punch and also believe that he can sketch intricate portraits of his family and birds and all these beautiful things. So one of the things that always stands out to me, that I tend to forget, and I always appreciate when they bring it up, is the fact that he is a trained theater actor. The idea, I don't know if he's been on Broadway before, but the idea of being able to be in theater and to have those type of performances and be that type of actor, I think really does kind of go a long way in the sense of having to use your imagination, as they say in here, your physicality also. I do think there's something that gives people a little bit of an edge to being an actor when you come from like a theater kind of background.
Yeah. Especially because that kind of reminds me of like what Samuel Jackson was like saying when he worked on the prequel trilogy about like how like a lot of people didn't like the rooms that they would be filming them in, where it'd be all blue screen and be harder to like kind of immerse yourself in the role. Whereas Samuel Jackson, it's like for him, it's like I used to play pretend all the time. This is just doing that same exact thing. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah. So yeah, I feel like it wouldn't surprise me if that was something that theater actors kind of had an advantage of. It's like being able to immerse themselves with less because they have less to work with. So they have to kind of adapt more than like kind of film actors who, tend to be on a set where like everything's there. So you're already pretty immersed. But I don't know. That's coming from an outside perspective who doesn't act. So if any actors in the comments, let me know if I'm full of shit.
Were you guys looking for a certain kind of interplay between John and Hal that you found in Aaron and Kyle? We wanted it to be as much of a buddy cop show as a superhero show. Kyle's character has kind of a throwback Chuck Yeager vibe to him. He's kind of the guy who you meet and you don't know whether you like him or you want to punch him. Then there's Aaron, who has a quiet authority about him. And I think that's important to their dynamic, to the story we're telling. And literally from day one, Kyle started giving Aaron shit for being young and inexperienced. And then Aaron started giving Kyle shit for being an old man. You'd see it in between takes too. They start messing with each other about keeping wait, it says, and then you'd see it between takes too. They'd start messing with each other, would just keep sitting there playing that dynamic in the best way. And because all the dialogue is supposed to be very back and forth style, they were in that rhythm before they even got into those scenes. And one of the things that I feel like I have continued to hear from like other directors on the show, other writers on the show, has been the chemistry between Aaron and Kyle in here. And if what Chris Mundy says is true, I mean, I think that's a perfect combination of characters and being able to see how well that they really work off of each other. I think that's pretty badass.
Definitely. I am happy with what they said about them having a kind of buddy cop dynamic and, not, of course, getting along right off the bat, having different issues with each other. I will say, I hope that if I don't know how the dialogue will actually like play out, but I hope that if Hal Jordan does give him crap for being inexperienced, that he goes, I literally served and I was a sniper.
It also says an essential part of John and Hal's comic lore includes that they butt heads when they first meet. They have different philosophies, different way of doing things. Is that part of the story you want to tell? He says, our show is in a lot of ways about replacement. When should someone step aside, and when is it time for the next person to take the reins? That push and pull between those two characters is really important. So much of the story that John has is by not taking the bait, understanding that you lose your power if you're yelling and screaming. That's what we're trying to convey, that he knows he belongs, so he doesn't have to overcompensate. There's a real balance there that's just innately inside of Aaron. He's big. He's an intimidating presence just physically, but there is a softness to him. There's a thoughtfulness, and you just can't teach that. Um, I do like that concept of replacement here. I will say when we posted this, somebody said they were a little bit bummed to kind of hear this in a sense that this to them means that this is Hal Jordan towards very much the end of his career, and they were kind of hoping that they would get the opportunity to see Hal Jordan kind of in his prime. I do think we're going to get some flashback sequences in here, so we may see like even a younger Hal in his prime at some point in time. But I do kind of appreciate that concept of ways about replacement. When is it a time to step aside, and when is it time to kind of give the next person those reins? And I could easily see Hal Jordan very much being in that position of thinking, I still got it, and not necessarily wanting to give power to somebody else. I feel like there's a little bit of that just in today's government, also in the sense of
Mm-hmm.
like people really overstaying themselves. But when you're such a hero and a charismatic one like Hal Jordan, I can see that idea of maybe giving it up, or maybe not necessarily giving it up, but taking a backseat to somebody that you may then need to give the power to in order to be at the front and center of things. And I'm sure that's probably a hard pill for Hal to swallow this season.
Definitely.
Did you
Oh,
give? Oh, okay. You
oh
got
no,
something
no,
else to
sorry,
say?
sorry. Keep going.
Did you give Aaron and Kyle any homework, a comic book syllabus or anything like that? Everybody did varying degrees of comic book homework on their own. We included talking about Lindelof and Tom King. Were there to answer any questions, but we aren't telling one specific chapter that's already existed in the comics. Our characters are true to the comics, but we're putting them in a new story. So the actors didn't have to dig into specific period in the comic books. It's more about understanding who John is and understanding who Hal is. What do you think about that?
No, that's kind of been the standard for a lot of comic book movies, I think, especially like, that's kind of like how James Gunn did Superman. It's like, and how he seems to be hyping up all the stuff going around. Oh God, what are they calling it? Not Sanctuary. They're the the um the dimension that they're sending the metahumans in. What salvation? Yeah. So
Salvation.
yeah, like James Gunn loves the concept of salvation, and that's going to be going on. But it's not like they're going to be doing like what they did for the prequel to Final Crisis. It's still going to be its own storyline. So hearing that they're doing that, they're taking the characters that everyone knows, the elements that people know and love from the comic books, but they're telling an original story with that. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, because that seems to be like the direction that DC wants to go. It's a direction that Marvel kind of went for a while. Like I'd say that was kind of how Marvel was during phases 1 through 3, is that like they never really directly adapted anything. They just took characters and then just, and familiar story elements, but told their own original story through it.
I do wonder if this will bum some people out in the sense of like thinking maybe there was like a Blackest Night storyline in here. Not to say that they can't lead into things like that or tease things like that, but I kind of appreciate the originality that they are going to be going with in here. Again, I don't necessarily think that excludes the idea that they can't be leading into other comic book stories, but the idea that they're really focusing more on the characters and not a specific moment in the comic books, I do find interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything that Aaron did during filming, any choices he made or characterizations he expanded that reinforced you that it was definitely John Stewart? He says, our story takes place in a couple of different time periods. So the challenge was for the characters to be consistent at their core. John's sort of a person in one of them than he is in another. And I do think the physicality and magnetism that Aaron brings to the role brought that all together. That theater training, they want to be in the minutia of the work and the craft. It really added to John's character from all sides. It added dimensions to the more physical side of the role and to the more emotional, creative part of the role. So here he goes confirming there will be different time periods explored in here. I did see casting announcements of like John Stewart's parents and things like that too. So I can see them easily going back in the different time periods.
Yeah, especially with flashbacks and like maybe knowing like Damon Lindelof's writing, I could definitely see them doing something where it's like a character acts one specific way and you're like, and it pisses you off, it angers you, and then you get the flashback at why that character acts that specific way, and it suddenly recontextualizes everything you thought you knew about them.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there's a little bit more to the men's health article if you guys want to check it out for yourself. But yeah, Chris Mundy continues to emphasize Aaron Pierre's role as John Stewart into this season, along with giving us some more insight in regards to what we can expect. One of the big questions right now, though, is when does this particular show drop? We've been highly anticipating a reveal of like some costumes. This is not an official look, y'all. Okay, this is just fan art. But we have been really highly anticipating brand new looks to this show. And really, I was kind of always under the impression, based off of how James Gunn announced things, that the next project that we were going to be getting was going to be Lanterns, followed by Supergirl. But there is suggestion going around that may not necessarily be the case. We may have to wait a little bit longer for the Lantern series. This comes to us from GamesRadar.com. saying that Lanterns is no longer set to premiere before Supergirl, according to a DC report. In a potential shakeup to the DC slate, it sounds like Lanterns could actually arrive after Supergirl, according to the latest update. As spotted by the Green Lanterns podcast, the Hollywood Reporter indicated earlier in October that Supergirl would arrive before Lanterns while discussing Peacemaker 2. This is what they said when they talked about Peacemaker 2. The finale will mark the last of the Gunverse we'll see until June's Supergirl, is what the publication said. The podcast reached out for clarification, and according to the email exchange the podcast shared, the Hollywood Reporter confirmed that Lanterns is now expected after Supergirl. This is a slight change to what was already known about Lantern's potential release schedule. In February, James Gunn indicated that Lanterns would arrive in early 2026 per deadline. Supergirl is coming out in June 26, so it would seem Lanterns has shifted back by a few months. Of course, since Lanterns never officially had a release date, this isn't strictly a delay. Things also might shift again, and nothing has actually been confirmed by DC Studios. So yeah, a potential move from early 2026, as hinted by James Gunn earlier last year or earlier this year, to now, according to the Hollywood Reporter, coming out after Supergirl. Um, how do you feel about this potential shift in the release, Stu? Do you think it's true?
I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I kind of hope not, because I gotta tell you, man, I really want to watch this series. I don't want to have to wait too long. But at the same time, though, if there's like a reason, whether or not it's because it makes sense for the story, or because like maybe the post production on the show might actually just take that long to finish, I would rather I'd rather have to like wait if it means better quality. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be bummed out about it.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm definitely a little bit bummed about it. Just 'cause I think from a pacing perspective, in regards to like what you want to release. I always thought the idea of having Lanterns like in like March or April would be great, and then Supergirl in June, and then you've got Clayface kind of like in that October setting, right? You give yourselves a couple of months, several months in between each DCU property to kind of really spread out your wealth when it comes to 2026. So I always thought that that was going to be the game plan for them. I do wonder if it is a case of, despite them having wrap production, like you said, maybe post production is taking them a little bit longer than we suspected. And I think look, at this point, if I'm James Gunn, I want the post production to take all the time that it certainly needs. And I think this might hint at something that we haven't really talked about. And I saw this on Twitter the other day. Somebody had asked the question, with this being a grounded television series, how much of the show do you think we're going to get without them in costume? So like in more civilian clothing. And somebody said 90%. The guy said 90%. He thinks 90% of the show is going to be them in civilian clothing, and then 10% of them in costumes.
and
And I
people
said,
and,
go ahead.
and people were complaining about Peacemaker doing that.
Right? And so, but when I started thinking about it, I'm like, I'll say like 65%. I think 90 is a little bit too high. I'll say something
Mm,
like 65% maybe. And I say that only because one of the things that we led with at the top of this was we have not seen any photos
mm.
from this show. Like, right, like any photos of this show. And usually if a show or a movie is filming on location, you would see a bunch of leaks come out in regards to it, right? But we haven't seen any of that. So there's a part of me that thinks that a lot of this was filmed on like a sound stage. And I think anytime you get them filmed on some level of soundstage, I immediately think green screen or blue screen, or it's just special effects in general, where the public doesn't have access. You can kind of keep things to yourselves, costumes secret for longer periods of time without necessarily being leaked. And we have seen people talk about the idea, like, look, even though that this show is grounded in the sense of the story and the characters and things like that, there are sci-fi elements to this, and there's a part of me that's thinking there's more sci-fi elements to this than they're even really letting on. And I think the lack of set photos is an indication that that certainly might be the case. So when we talk about lanterns coming out later than expected, I do think a lot of that's probably post-production in regards to visual effects, special effects, wanting it to get clean and sharper and really dynamic for release, instead of kind of pushing the envelope and getting it ready for an early release. I mean, even when I think when it comes to like CW television shows, they probably would have wrapped production around the same amount of time, but I don't necessarily know if we would have expected them to then drop that series in like March or April. So this could be patiently waiting for sort of like that fall time period, because I think HBO Max is usually pretty good, especially now that we're in November, about to lead into December. They're usually pretty good about giving you like first looks in regards to what's to come in like early 2026, and I don't see that anywhere yet, and it wouldn't surprise me if Lanterns doesn't necessarily make that cut. But I do think once HBO Max does release sort of that teaser, that'll definitely give us a much better understanding if this movie is in, if this series is in fact releasing in early 2026 or late in 2026. I wish it was April, but if it is the idea of like there's more special effects and visual effects than we expect, then I don't mind them waiting. I think my biggest complaint was just I would have rather preferred them spread out their DCU content instead of everything hitting kind of right after June, right? Because then you got the Clayface movie in October. Where do you place the DC Lantern series at that time? Do you wait after Clayface, like November, December of 2026? Or do you place it like August, September, or something like that, for the fall series, when new television series usually begin? But I don't know how I necessarily feel about this, but I just know I need the show immediately. That's all I know.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page about that. Like, we'll wait for it if we have to, but I just, my patience is weird. No, I'm kidding. It's not wearing thin. But, at the same time, it's like, if you're going to keep us waiting this long, just that we're the longer we wait, the higher our expectations get. Let's put it that way. Because that's kind of, how it comes off to me. It's like, oh, yeah, we have to delay it. So it's like, oh, delayed, you say. So that means you're putting extra work into it, right? You're not just pulling a Duke Nukem Forever on us, are you?
No, I mean, with Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof attached, I just immediately expect high quality content. Like I don't think I've ever seen them produce anything that was just below average, So I'm
Yeah.
excited for it.
I'm
Random
I'm
James,
oh,
okay.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so like I'm often mixed on Damon Lindelof's writing. Sometimes I think it works incredible. Other times, comes off as a little pretentious or tries too hard, if that makes sense. Again, I agree with you. Watchmen is one of the best written super, or, just comic book adaptations I think I've ever seen. So that's not me trying to say that with all his work. He has written some amazing stuff here and there. I'm just not a fan of all of it. So
I
going
got
into Lanterns, I do have some pretty high hopes though, because again, he's worked on comic book shows before, done a great job with, Watchmen. So it does have that going on with it for me. And then when it comes to the people complaining that, they may not be in their costumes as much, I actually am not too worried about that. One thing I do kind of like about the current format that we have with television compared to the CW format, which, nothing against it. Again, I kind of liked knowing what I was going to expect whenever I got like a new episode of Flash or Arrow. But I think like one advantage you have with the way we do it with the modern superhero format in with television is that it's not a requirement every episode. It doesn't feel like, you know, you're following a specific pattern over and over like you did with the Flash, where it's like kind of the Flash most of the time would have this pattern of we get a beginning scene of him in his suit where he loses to the villain of the week, and then we get, you know, the drama storyline of the episode where it's mostly costumes. But you know, then, you know, by the end of the episode, he's back in his costume. He took what he learned from the episode, uses it to stop the villain of the week, and it's a great formula. And I don't want it to necessarily go away, but I also don't necessarily want every superhero show to follow that. I don't want every superhero show to be like, okay, we have to have at least one fight scene every episode, we have to have at least one scene where they're suited up in the costumes every episode. I like the idea of hey, we can take a couple episodes, a couple breathers where, you know, it's a very character focused episode where all the characters are just in their civilian clothing, and then next time we go to our next, you know, big battle, we can you know, take the money that we would have used if we were putting them in their costumes or using special effects in these episodes, and now that money that we saved up from not doing that in those episodes, we can use to go even bigger with this fight. You know, I'd rather see like less big action scenes, but have them be bigger instead of you know, multiple smaller action scenes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I definitely get you. I would be interested to see what the format of this show is going to be. I think streaming formats for sure do give you that flexibility of being able to have episodes like that, whereas the CW kind of formula was a little bit more predictable in that regards. Um, Ram Jim just says the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott, going to be in the series. I don't know. Marcelin does mention that Alan Scott was supposed to be in the original Green Lantern series that was announced when we still had our DCEU, if I'm not mistaken. But since that wound up getting scrapped and now we got new management here for the DCU, I think this is going to be more focused on John Stewart and Hal Jordan. Although there are rumors and speculation that since this is a murder mystery, that what they could be investigating is the potential murder of maybe Alan Scott. Is one of the theories that I've been hearing, is that they're
Ooh.
investigating the rumor of a former Green Lantern Alan Scott. But we'll see. We'll see.
That would be a crazy way to start the series. Although I'm just gonna point this out now, because if I don't, someone else will. If they go that route, that will come off to some people
Yeah.
as the bury your gaze. Though I
Yeah.
just pointed that out there. But that
Yeah.
would be a really crazy way to start off to start out a Green Lantern series by killing off the OG Golden Age
No,
Lantern.
it would be epic. But I'm now that you mentioned that, I was just thinking that, like, I don't know if I want that to happen though.
Yeah.
Just because of what it would, you know, that it would piss people off like that.
Yeah, I
But
agree with
yeah,
Marcelino. That would piss a lot of people off.
it would piss a lot of people off. But it's a cool concept though. Cool concept. Tony, what's up, Tony? Appreciate you certainly coming through today. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts on Lanterns. Chris Mundy talking a little bit more about Aaron Pierre as John Stewart, along with an update in regards to a potential release date change. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section box below. With that out of the way, we'll continue to stay in the world of the DCU, but this time we're going to tackle Sergeant Rock. That's right, Sergeant Rock is back in the news, and what a ride it's been for this particular property that was gaining a lot of steam. Probably one of the DCU movies that got so many updates from all these big media sites. Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, felt like every week was talking about who the writer is, who the director is, brand new casting and things like that, only for this movie to never actually get greenlit and come to light. Like, I've never seen anything like it before, honestly. All these other DCU movies being talked about, but Sergeant Rock was like front and center, to the point to where I believe James Gunn and them said that they wind up scrapping the film. There were suggestions that possibly this movie was being postponed in regards to being now filmed in summer of 2026 because they missed their window for shooting on location where they wanted to, and they thought maybe a summer shoot would actually work out a lot better. Um, but I have no idea what's happening with this project right now, but I'm under the impression that it's not coming to fruition. But somebody is talking about it. This is like this month, Stuart, has been the week of actors talking about movies that have been canceled and wishing that they were made. First, we had Adam Driver with The Hunt for Ben Solo, and this week we've got Colin Farrell. That's like, I really love that script. And this comes to us from comicbookmovie.com. Colin Farrell, on whether he's still involved with Sergeant Rock, contradicts James Gunn's script criticisms. So this will be an interesting one to dive into. Let's talk about this one here for a little bit.
Before you get started in the article, is contradict the right word? Could it just be that Colin Farrell loved the script and James Gunn didn't? Like, does one person not liking a script another one likes? Is that a contradiction, or is it just a disagreement?
Right? Yeah, for sure. Let's see what let's see what he's saying though. He says in May, the news broke that DC Studios had decided to shelve Sergeant Rock. There was some chatter about the movie shooting in 2026, but filmmaker Luca Guadagnino didn't exactly stick around and quickly moved to a different project. His inexperience helming the project was listed as one of the possible reasons Sergeant Rock postponement, as were concerns about the UK's unpredictable weather. There were telltale signs of a problem from the start, with Daniel Craig eyed to lead the roles in the movie before DC Studios suddenly pivoted to Colin Farrell. I remember there was even a brief article out there that said Jeremy Allen White from Shameless and The Bear was potentially in talks for the role also. I mean, this Sergeant Rock movie got so much headline for a film that didn't even actually happen. Some believe Farrell was the cheaper option, despite the director being eager to reunite with Daniel Craig, who he previously worked with. In a recent interview, Colin Farrell was asked about the status of Sergeant Rock, and he says, "God, that was a fantastic script. I wonder what's happening with it." When it was put to him that the movie may not be as appealing without the director at the helm, he said, "I know nothing about it, brother. I was going to do it with Luca. We spoke about it a couple times, and I had some really nice chats. I have no idea where it is now, but it should be made. It's really, really good. There's some wonderful stuff in it." It's apparent that Farrell is no longer attached to Sergeant Rock and is in the dark about where things stand with the project. But what it's worth, DC Studios CEO James Gunn said he'd like to make it, but had a very different take on the script from Farrell. This is what Gunn had said after a third draft. Sergeant Rock wasn't changing. It wasn't getting better. It was staying in the same place. And I says, we can't make this film. We can't. It's not good. We know it's not good. Just because we have a good director attached and a good screenwriter, it doesn't mean the script is working. Everyone is going to be upset at the end of this. It's going to come out and the movie's not going to be good. The director's going to look bad, screenwriter's going to look bad, and we're going to look bad. So I don't want to have this. We're not going to make the movie. And so we killed it. So yeah, Colin Farrell, big fan of the script, clearly saw something differently than what James Gunn certainly did at the time. Stuart, is this do you think this is the do you think that this movie still has a chance come summer 2026? Like, would you be surprised if come summer, or as we get through spring, they're like, Sergeant Rock is up next, is going to start pre-production soon? Or do you think that this movie is not in the process of being made? Like they're just moving past this. Will it ever get revisited, or you think that this is done for? What do you think?
I think if it does get revisited, it's not going to be the script that Colin Farrell is talking about. I really want to read the script now. So I hope someone leaks it online, because now I got my own curiosity now of what it could be. But yeah, no, I do think, because I don't know. I think that it seems like James Gunn does kind of have some interest in exploring that era of the DC universe. And not to mention, fans have expressed interest in, Justice Society of America. So it's like that feels like the perfect way to kind of like introduce the JSA into the universe. So I do think we are going to get a Sergeant Rock movie eventually. But like hearing what James Gunn said about the script compared to Colin Farrell, I don't think it'll be the same script. I think he will likely bring on a new writer to completely revamp the story. Maybe elements of the script will make it into it, but it'll be like comparing what we got from Captain America Brave New World to what was the original concept of Captain America, what was it even called, New World Order.
Serpent. Oh,
Yeah.
New World Order.
Yeah. It'll be like, I think like the difference, it will be like that when you have the script for New World Order compared to what we got in Brave New World. Not saying quality wise, but I'm saying that in terms of like how different they are.
I get you. Yeah, I kind of appreciate the idea of like if we do get this movie, um, in the future, the idea of it being a completely different script. I can easily see that. And I do think that there is maybe something beneficial for Sergeant Rock to be on the back burner just a little while longer. Because I would agree with you in the sense that I do think he would be open to making a Sergeant Rock movie just because I just think once you start saying metahumans have been around for 300 years, you immediately establish that there's so many different time periods that you can kind of explore that it would be kind of a bummer to just focus on modern day or futuristic stuff. If we can get ourselves like a period piece going back to World War One or World War Two, I think would be really great. And because I am one of those people that have been very vocal about wanting to see the Justice Society of America showcase somewhere, or even being a big supporter of GI Robot and eventually getting ourselves a live action version of him. I feel like movies like a Sergeant Rock is a perfect opportunity to kind of introduce them. And I think it would be a missed opportunity also in the sense of not exploring kind of that time period and seeing the impact on what metahumans had on the war and how, military soldiers kind of even whether they embrace the help of metahumans or look down on them, sort of thing. I think there's just a really interesting dynamic behind it. So, I don't know if this movie's ever going to be made, but I would agree with you, Stuart. I think if it is going to be made, it's probably going to be later on down the road. And I do think too, like, and I think people probably brought this up too when it was announced that we might get a Sergeant Rock movie very early on, right? Like you're talking about the DCU rollout being Superman, Supergirl, Sergeant Rock, and Clayface, right? And then people asking, well, where's Wonder Woman? Where's Batman? Right? The big more the bigger Trinity names, the more recognizable names. Maybe releasing Sergeant Rock early certainly would have hurt the momentum in that regards, or people because this was such a fresh film in the DCU, maybe didn't have that momentum behind it in regards to people trusting DCU enough to then go and see this movie on the big screen. So maybe postponing this a couple of years is probably more beneficial to the Sergeant Rock franchise and name, where you do then give James Gunn the opportunity to build up the more established characters. And then when you have people on your side, then introducing more original characters that haven't really been explored on the big screen, using that momentum to then get people in seats because they trust the DCU. That probably might be the direction that they're kind of going in now. So I do hope the movie gets made because I feel like they've been trying to make a Sergeant Rock movie for like the longest time, who like whatever regime is in place, and they've just never gotten to that point. So maybe one day, maybe one day.
Yeah, I do find it funny because I didn't know there was like a huge history on them trying to get this movie made since like the 90s, even trying to get like Arnold Schwarzenegger at one point to play
Yeah.
Sergeant Rock. But now knowing that, it is interesting because I feel like with it just being a simple World War II comic book series, I feel like it would have been like one of the easier things to adapt. But yeah, like again, I do see it happening, even if it's not the same thing. But I do agree with you that I could also see part of the reason, even if that's something that James Gunn won't admit, part of the reason is that they do want to keep the momentum going. So they might be now prioritizing Wonder Woman and Batman more than they originally were going to from the beginning. Just because they want to keep the hype train up.
Yeah, I think so. Because we did see a more of a focus on the Wonder Woman series with Paradise Lost and even a movie announcement, and then them really focusing on this Batman movie too. So yeah, it could just be a change of priorities. Shout out to a kid named Mari. What's up? Good to see you in here, Mari. Thank you so much for certainly coming through. 17 Samurai Spirited. I think it's a rebrand for Super Sentai. Who knows? Yeah, we're almost there. We're almost there to talk some Super Sentai with you guys. We do have one last article to get into. Marcelino says some people hated the way Superman started with saying metahumans were around 300 years ago and wanted an origin story akin to Lord of the Rings. I think Lord of the Rings does a good job of using the epilogue in the first 10, 15 minutes of the film to kind of give us a backstory, and then dropping us into more modern day. But, Lord of the Rings was also like a 2.5, almost 3 hour movie, if anything. So I think they probably have more time to work with in that regard. I don't mind the idea of them just stating it. I just hope that we do get movies that explore that earlier time period or the introduction of the first metahuman or just something like that. I want more past period pieces for sure.
Mm.
But yeah, guys, let
Same.
us know. Let us know your thoughts. Do you think Sergeant Rock will ever get made? If so, when? Let us know. As Colin Farrell really enjoyed the script, despite James Gunn saying, we're not about to put out this bad movie." But yeah, let us know your guys' thoughts. We will stick in the world of Warner Brothers at least, because Warner Brothers, guys, is still in the news, Stuart. Warner Brothers has officially put itself up for sale. We talked about this last week. They officially are on trying to entice a bidding war here as the first group of people that came out trying to say that they wanted to purchase Warner Brothers was Paramount. I believe Warner Brothers has turned down 3 Paramount offers so far, maybe waiting to hear what other people are going to offer first. There was a recent Bloomberg report, though, that stated that if Paramount were to purchase Warner Brothers, that the people in charge or the heads of the studios and the departments would in fact be safe. They had no plans on changing the people at the top, which was what I found pretty interesting from the Bloomberg report. But if you thought this was going to be an easy purchase for Paramount, think again, because more people continue to enter the bidding war. We've heard of Universal potentially. We've even heard of Apple, and somebody that kept saying, "No, we're not in the business of purchasing. Nah, no, no. We want to build our own. We don't want to grab other companies." That's right. Netflix has entered the race, regardless of like a month's worth of interviews where they're like, "No, we really don't have any interest. We really don't have any interest." Reuters website, routers. How you pronounce it?
Reuters.
Reuters,
Yeah.
along with other websites, have in fact confirmed that Netflix is very much interested. So let's go ahead and dive into this article here from Reuters. Exclusive: Netflix taps bank to explore a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery. Um, yeah, they're really going for this one, Stuart. It says Netflix is actively exploring a bid for Warner Brothers Discovery Studio and streaming business, retaining a financial advisor and gaining access to financial information, according to 3 sources familiar with the matter. Not just one, but they verified this. The video streaming service has hired Moelis and Company, the investment bank that advised Skydance Media on its successful bid for Paramount, to evaluate a prospective offer, 2 of the sources said. Netflix also has been granted access to the data room, which contains the financial details needed to make a bid, according to two of the sources familiar with the matter. Um, Owning Warner Brothers Studios would give Netflix control over the Hollywood's most successful stories and characters, including Harry Potter and the DC Comics franchise. Warner Brothers' prolific television studio also produces many Netflix hits, including original series like Running Point, You, and Made. HBO and this company's streaming service would add more prestige dramas and subscribers. Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos told investors last week that while the company is traditionally more builders than buyers, it does evaluate acquisition based on criteria such as the size of the opportunity and whether it would strengthen the company's entertainment offerings. They do also indicate, though, that Netflix would not be interested in acquiring Warner Brothers cable television networks, though. So they don't want the TV stuff. It looks like they want the movie studios, the television studios, and the library that certainly comes along with it.
I mean, that makes sense because like cable television isn't really profitable anymore.
Yeah, and Warner Bros. Has been open about the idea that they initially planned on trying to split their company in regards to Warner Brothers and the streaming side of things and the television side and selling them as separate entities. So I am kind of curious as to what this bid coming in possibly for Netflix will be for, and what will happen here. But Stuart, this is my nightmare. Okay, this is my nightmare. This is what keeps me up at night, my guy. The idea of Netflix potentially tapping Warner Brothers here. Any thoughts? How are you feeling about this news?
I'm gonna tell you something that is gonna be super political, but I think you don't have to worry about Netflix getting it because I am keep in mind I'm 90% sure it's going to be Paramount. Main thing is I think Trump is going to make sure Paramount gets it. If any company is going to get it, it's going to be Paramount because the Trump is a good relationship with the guy who is in charge of Paramount now, the guy who recently bought it because he was the I believe he's the son of one of the richest human beings on the planet,
David Ellison.
David Ellison, that's it. And he owns Skydance, which ended up, being the one that, merged with Paramount. So I think that it's going to go to Paramount because of that. But, I'm curious to see if this is a hot take because here's the thing. Like, yes, I know that that joke fantasy I had of how Netflix could actually, if they wanted to, change the theater industry for the better. How cool that would be, but we all know that that's not actually what would happen if Netflix bought the rights to Warner Brothers. But at the same time, I do think if they owned Warner Brothers IPs, I do think that they would probably change their policy, like when it came to theaters, theatrical releases, just a little bit. So if I really had to pick, man, I think I'd go with Netflix. I think I would go with Netflix between them or Paramount. I think Paramount just owns way too much as it is. And if they were to pick up Warner Brothers, we would get, I know they said that none of the head studio execs would lose their jobs or anything like that, but I still think that they would downsize majorly, and we would lose more and more movies every year. We would be getting way less, whereas Netflix, I don't think it really matters how much they produce. They're constantly going producing several dozen shows and movies every year. So at least if they went to Netflix, I know that we would be getting content. I know that people would be getting jobs and movies would be getting made. And I can't have that guarantee with Paramount. Also, as far as I know, Netflix doesn't have any agendas of any sort, whereas Paramount is kind of leaning more towards Trump propaganda kind of content. At least that's the direction I see them going in. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong about that, but that's definitely the direction it feels like they're going with Paramount. So for me, man, I got to go with Netflix. I'm sorry. I don't want either. Let me make this clear. I don't want either of them to purchase Warner Brothers. I don't want Warner Brothers to be purchased. I want David Zaslav to get fired and someone else to fucking, someone who actually knows how to run a business to take over. That's what I want for Warner Brothers. I want yeah. So that's like my thing. So, but yeah, I'm not happy about this either way. But regardless, Netflix just a little bit. I think it's the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, it might be. It might be. I do remember Trump literally posting Paramount, you should purchase Warner Brothers. Like he literally like said that. And when he says things, it does carry weight and power, and people do listen to him. I mean, Paramount has given Warner Brothers 3 bids. Now Netflix is in the race. I was kind of hoping that somebody else would come out of this like Universal and be like the dark horse and save us all from both of these options. But both options to me are terrible ones. I did see somebody, one of the YouTubers that I watched, John Campia, he tried to bring an optimistic side to this deal and say that like, kind of leaning towards you in the sense that he knows that they would still at least produce movies, but he was thinking that Netflix would leave Warner Brothers Studios to just do what it is that they always do in regards to creating movies and still putting movies out and stuff. My only concern with that would be, while you hope that Netflix would then be more on board with releasing movies, there's a part of me that still thinks that they would still treat the theatrical window very, very small in regards to, we want to push this to be a Netflix exclusive more than we want it to be in theaters. So while maybe they do allow these production companies, and that's just hypothetical, but like just to say Netflix does allow Warner Brothers Studios to continue to produce its movies and stuff. If you're Netflix, similar to how we've seen them treat Wake Up Dead Man, Frankenstein, um, exclusively on Netflix, but we will give you a small theatrical window of a release. My concern would be, 45 days maybe even be too long in theaters. Like shortening the time period that Warner Brother movies have in theaters so that you can then turn around and drop it on your streaming service as exclusive only to Netflix, and in turn focusing more on raising the stock for your shareholders than worrying so much about what the financial box office success of a film is going to be, if that makes sense. That would be my concern in the sense, and why I think that could still, if they went that route, how it could still even hurt the concept of movie theaters and the industry. If you start cutting into a movie only being out in theaters 2 to 3 weeks only, and then exclusively on Netflix if they went that route. I would worry about the production value, the quality of the films. I mean, it's not like Netflix films knock out bangers all the time. I mean, we do get some gems and things like that. But I would be really curious and concerned about how Netflix handles the studio side of Warner Brothers, if they do allow them to continue to do business as usual, or if they kind of just merge and bring them in. That would be one of my biggest concerns. So, I'm like you. Look, I don't want Paramount or Netflix to get their grubby little hands on it. But the way that, like, I haven't heard anything from Apple, I haven't heard anything from Universal about bids. So it would make me really worried. Like these two may be our only our only options. And I think that regardless, I think they're both going to be bad for business. And yeah, I'm not rooting for any of y'all. I'm just being honest.
It sucks. You brought up Apple, and as much as I hate Apple as a company, I think that they would take the best care of the IPs that they would be, owning. I think that would actually be the best, because here's the thing, they are a streaming service. They have their streaming services, yes, but they do full theatrical releases. They do not pull the Netflix of releasing their exclusives in theaters for like a week and then pulling it out for, their streaming platform. They actually give it a full theatrical run, like they did with the oh man, somewhat recent Tetris movie. I actually can't remember what else. They also did a movie about BlackBerry, if I'm not mistaken. The original like smartphone, or like the phones right before phones became smartphones, like touchscreen smartphones. I can't remember what else they've produced that have come to theaters, but they actually do theatrical runs though. So I wish Apple would be interested in this, but but yeah, like you said, I haven't heard anything from them, from Universal or anyone else. So the only two we've been hearing about are Netflix and Paramount, the two worst companies to own Warner Brothers.
Yeah, man. So the plot thickens, y'all, in regards to the purchasing of Warner Brothers Studio. We'll definitely continue to keep you guys up to date each week as new details wind up emerging to see exactly who purchases this. But yeah, with Paramount and Netflix seemingly at the forefront of things, we'll have to see. My thing is like with Paramount. Again, I just think of layoffs. I think of firing. I think of big monopolies. I think of shrinking any creative juices that people have, limiting the amount of releases, perhaps. I mean, maybe Paramount would still have Warner Brother Pictures and DC Studios continue to push out sort of like their content. Um, I would just be really curious about their agenda, as to why they want to purchase so much and have control of such a big media conglomerate. That type of stuff just really, really worries me.
Yeah.
But let us know your thoughts, guys, in the comment section box below. And with let's see here, we got Jin in the house joining us today. Jin Saku, the man, the myth, the legend. I'm eating a cheeseburger right now. That sounds so damn good, dude. From where? If you say In and Out, man, oh man, we're gonna have a fight on our hands.
You're not a
Marcelino
fan
says,
of, because you're not a fan of In-N-Out, or because he didn't purchase you an In-N-Out burger?
I don't mind In and Out. In and Out is okay. I just think Texas has way superior burgers like Whataburger here, but that's just me.
I have not
Uh,
tried one yet.
I will say I do know a Californian that enjoyed In and Out, came and visited Texas, had a Whataburger, and can't go back now. Like loves Whataburger to death. Marcelino, maybe people are hoping Universal buys Warner Brothers because that would mean they would get the film rights for the Hulk and Namor back to Marvel because they can't own both Marvel and DC. That would be pretty cool. Although I will say too, I'm sure the Zack Snyder Bros are hoping that Netflix acquires Warner Brothers at this point in time. Zack Snyder has been releasing a lot of images of his DCEU stuff, like Henry Cavill's Superman, photos of Ben Affleck as Batman. Zack Snyder might be behind the scenes knowing something that we don't necessarily know. And the Snyder Bros are probably hoping and crossing their fingers that Netflix picks it up. We'll see. Jin in the house. Speaking of Jin Saku, let's get into our next story, Stuart, here, as the world of Super Sentai has in fact been shaken to its core. That's right. Big changes are in fact happening for Super Sentai. Earlier this week, we were getting some notifications here that maybe Super Sentai might be canceled after this current season of Super Sentai, but we got other sources that are saying, no, 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 let's pump the brakes here. This is just possibly a rebrand. I mean, look, to be fair with you, Stuart, 50 years is a long time to produce anything. And I'm sure after 50 years, things maybe become stale. Maybe, viewership isn't up like it used to be. After the separation of Power Rangers and Super Sentai, I do believe Super Sentai has kind of taken a little bit of a hit in regards to its toy sales. I don't know if that's strictly just because of its separation from Power Rangers or what, but apparently it's been struggling. And it looks like Toei is trying to find some way to either revive it, rebrand it, or do something with it. So let's get into some of these articles here. And we got Jin Saku in here. Um, Maybe he can go ahead and clarify for us some things even further. But let's go through these articles real quick so we give everybody the rundown as to what's going. The first article I saw here was from Gizmodo. This says Super Sentai as we know it may come to an end after 50 years. Japanese newspaper, the Senkai Shimbu and Kyoto News Agency are reporting that Super Sentai, the longest running tokusatsu franchise that paved the way for the 90s franchise boom in the West, may come to an end after 50 years. Both reports suggest that series owner Toei will end the series with the climax of the currently airing number one Sentai Goes User, which began broadcasting earlier this year, citing budgetary concerns with profits from Super Sentai merchandise, as well as events such as movies and live show tours, failing to match the series' productions costs. So it talks a little bit about how long the show's been going on for. Neither Toei nor TV Asahi, the network that currently airs Super Sentai, has publicly commented on the reports. However, rumors have circulated recently of a potential soft reboot and rebrand of the franchise, paving the way for a Super Sentai-esque series to take place after Goes User. Although it's not happened yet this year, it's usually around November when the next Super Sentai series title emerges through trademark filings in Japan, which may reveal plans to move the series away from its current rebranding. Although it does say earlier this year, speaking to Daily Sports Online, series producers suggested that a new series was in development. He says, I think Goes User is a program that retells the history of Super Sentai, including redefining the warriors of the past. That's why the 51st series can't be an extension of that. I believe the program itself has to move to the next stage, and we're currently in the midst of building it. Oh, that quote alone, Stuart, makes me a little bit more confident this is definitely more of a rebrand in regards to doing something completely new, maybe separating itself a little bit from the past of Super Sentai and maybe kind of launching anew, it looks like. Move to the next stage, and we're currently in the midst of building it. But before we speculate, I do want to bring up this other article from Mega Power Brazil. Is what I saw here on Twitter. I did translate this into English. Super Sentai will undergo a major overhaul and may change its name in Japan. A note published on Portal indicates that Super Sentai franchise will end its run on TV Asahi with the current series Goes User. Over the past year, there's been speculation that the Super Sentai franchise might go on hiatus or end its television due to fluctuating ratings, but mainly due to low toy sales revenue. However, it seems the outcome is different. Let me see. Reformulation. Super Sentai has faced a decline in toy sales in recent years since the split in Power Rangers. The franchise grossed approximately 21 billion yen in 2022. In 2017, it approximately 21 billion yen, while in 2022 it only grossed 5 billion. This likely prompted Toei to consider a restructuring, as noted by the Ranger Board website. According to Ranger Board, Goes User is the last Super Sentai series in the format we know. The franchise will undergo a rebranding, arriving in 2026 with a new identity. Man, first off, Jinsaku, if you have any words about this, let us know your thoughts in the comments. But look, I personally don't even know where to begin, Stuart, with this one. But look, after 50 years, I guess similar to what Power Rangers is currently doing, maybe it is time to rebrand yourself a little bit. Start afresh, if you will. Power Rangers is set to go ahead and begin production, I believe, in January of 2026. I'm curious as to see what the format is going to be of that, how different it's going to be from past iterations of Power Rangers, what's kept over. I mean, it is planned on being a reboot, but will it be any sort of minor references to the past, who certainly knows? But Super Sentai seems to me like it is more of a rebranding and not necessarily a cancellation. I mean, I the idea of coming up with a brand new name would be pretty interesting. If production costs are too high, which direction would you even go? Do you still film it the same way? Um, do you get new directors to help bring a different vision to life? Is it filmed completely differently than what it was before? I would be kind of curious to see where it goes from here. Will there be connections to the past? Is this going to be completely like starting off with a new origin story in the sense? Will events of what happens at the finale of Gojuger kind of like kick off the idea of an erasure or um, starting fresh? I'm really not sure, but I do think it's probably one of the best moves that they have at this point after 50 years, Stuart.
Mhm. For me, like I can't think of what it actually means. So all I can really give is my thoughts on what I hope it kind of means for the franchise going forward. What I hope it means is like maybe they switch their focus on how they tell stories, on how it's presented. And that's, please note, I'm about to say something that's going to sound like I'm crapping on the Super Sentai formula. I am not. I'm just saying that they've been kind of doing they've been doing very similar things as far as I can tell since its concept. Like, yes, over time, they did introduce new aspects, new elements, like, we got the Zords after several seasons. And then of course, you would eventually get the sixth Ranger every other season, or after like I think it was I think Zhu Ranger was the first one that introduced the sixth Ranger, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But through that, there hasn't been that much they've been doing to really shake up the formula. And I think it kind of comes down to the fact that you have like 50 episodes that you got to produce a year. And I imagine I imagine that being like a very um challenging creative wise. It's very hard to be creative when you have to like produce so much so fast. So I'm wondering if for this rebrand, what they're going to do is maybe focus a little bit more on taking their time with producing the project, maybe do less episodes every year, but with those episodes doing a lot more with them in terms of what they can do in terms of like special effects, or in terms of like having more time to film, therefore maybe getting more from your actors. And again, that's not me saying anything negative about Super Sentai. I have watched several seasons, and I absolutely, I have an absolute blast with them. But I'm assuming if the ratings are going down, there's probably a reason for it. So I'm wondering if like that's the kind of rebranding that they're looking at, is like completely kind of changing the format of the show, how it's structured, maybe going more towards the drama side of things. So that's all what I'm kind of hoping for. Because I don't know what kind of uh marketing they do towards children in Japan. Like, I'm not sure exactly like what's big with them at the moment. I don't know. Like, I don't have any good predictions on where I think it could go. But so all I can really say is that's where I kind of hope that the show goes. Is it goes into more like kind of less more with less, basically.
Yeah, the idea and the notion of less episodes, I think, would actually be beneficial to them. One of the things that always amazes me when it comes to Super Sentai is like the pace of their creativity, right? Because I mean, if we're talking like 40 something episodes, I mean, you literally have a new, like you literally taking up a new show every week of the year, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 episodes, 2 or 3 weeks with like no content based off of holidays or whatever the case may be. That pace, I mean, when you release a new show, you immediately have got to start like working on your next project, and that just seems like that's exhausting. You run out of creativity really quickly, although they do tend to bring in like alternate some of their storytellers or past writers and bring them back to come up with new stories to kind of tell. So, the idea of Super Sentai turning to, even if you wanted to do 25 episodes or 30 episode seasons, I think that would certainly work just fine also, instead of something so long as 50. You mentioned the idea of going more drama side of things. Look, I think Super Sentai still wants to appeal to kids,
Mhm.
um, but still maybe capture 'em. Maybe at this point, 50 years in, maybe you want to adult it up a little bit, right? Like maybe you do want to bring it to more, like maybe Super Sentai is seeing what Power Rangers is kind of doing, or at least maybe Power Rangers is seeing what Super Sentai wants to do, and they're like, man, we need a show that's for young adults, but need to rebrand Power Rangers. Maybe that's the same thing here for Super Sentai, is the sense of maybe it shouldn't necessarily be as kid like, maybe add a little bit more adult to it in the sense of drama, but still make it accessible with costumes and Zords and things like that. Um, but just add more stakes to it, and a little bit more a little bit more better storytelling to it. And not to say that Super Sentai is weak in storytelling. I always felt like Super Sentai usually has some pretty good stories, but just taking your show to kind of that next level. And when the gentleman says here, who is the gentleman's name? The series producer, uh, Shirakura, says that's why the 51st series can't be an extension of that. I believe the program itself has to move to the next stage, and we're in the midst of that. I mean, I think moving to the next stage is having different producers on board, having a different vision from a director's perspective. Because I can tell you right now, the showrunners for um, uh, Percy Jackson and the Olympians are not going to produce the same level of visual appealing show that like Nickelodeon Power Rangers had or Netflix had, right? Like it's going to have a different lens about it that I think shows that this series has matured, but is still accessible to young adults and maybe even adults to kind of enjoy also. And so, that old formula, like you mentioned, of Super Sentai, maybe that is something that's kind of going away, and we've got ourselves a new formula, lesser seasons, taking the next stage in levels of storytelling, bringing in other directors and storytellers with new visions for what Super Sentai could potentially be going forward, but still making it appealing from a toy side of things. But you need to inject sort of some extra life into it. And I think I have it feels very much like Power Rangers and Super Sentai are very much on the same pathway here, in regards to still being similar, but in both of their next stages. So, a name change I think would certainly go a long way. New lore I think would certainly go a long way, but the concept of powers,
Mhm.
henshins, battling beasts, big robots and stuff. I think all that stuff will be intact, but I do think new elements of visual storytelling might happen here. But this is it's pretty interesting stuff, man.
One other thought I had, a little like kind of possibility kind of prediction. They could do something that they literally have not done since the OG Super Sentai. They could have the same team for more than one season.
Ooh, that would be pretty dope. That would be pretty dope.
Yeah.
Let's see what some people are saying. According to Jin, he says he's assuming. He says it'll be the same, just under a fresh new coat of paint. Maybe a new name gives it a chance at a global release to bypass that Power Rangers Sentai legal issue. Yeah, I do think the concept of Super Sentai not having a global appeal certainly hurts it. We have seen them take things like Kamen Rider, other studios like that do Ultraman, simulcast their stuff, whether that be Crunchyroll, whether that be YouTube, to add to a bigger global audience. I have always been interested as to why Super Sentai never did that also, but I can easily see because of if they were to do that, it would certainly take away from the Power Rangers rebrand or brand itself. So yeah, maybe this will allow, maybe not necessarily even just a name change, but also a filming format, how you tell your stories. Maybe that will help separate it a little bit more to give it sort of that global appeal. As someone who has started watching Sentai as it's airing with Real Soldier, it does get draining after a while with the same formula year after year. I mean, what do you think? I mean, Power Ranger fan here, yeah. Again, don't get me wrong. It's a nostalgia. It's something I'm comfortable with because it's a formula we've seen for such a long time and it works. But it only gets you so far. And Cisa, so I think a rebrand is much needed. So I think you might be right. They're the notion of not just naming it, but also really having some significant differences. I mean, is it going to be a 30-minute show? Will they make the episodes a little bit longer and but shorten the episode count? Um, Ram Jam says Super Sentai had 35 episodes back in the late 70s. Jin says shorter episodes would be ideal, save money too. Yeah, absolutely. I have no idea what a production for Sentai cost, but the idea of it cost like doing 50 episodes of that, like that's just crazy to me. I can't even imagine. So yeah, my first thing would be shorten the episodes and let's just like get a brand new formula for it and new visuals. You know, keep the henshins, keep the robots, keep the costumes, keep the powers. Like that's cool, but the level of storytelling I think needs to certainly kick itself up a notch. And just to go back to, um, they do say we're currently in the midst of building it. You know, Super Sentai is really great of like when this one finishes, boom, the next one is set to kind of begin. Um, I am curious as to is there going to be a hiatus? You know, have they been working on this since the beginning of Ghost User, right? Like have they already in the back of their mind known, this is the direction that we want to go with the franchise after the 50th anniversary? So they've been working behind the scenes already. Like when this current Super Sentai series ends, is this new formula set to go ahead and begin? I am curious if they've got such a great machine over there, that they can go ahead and immediately knock this out in regards to that going forward. Or if there's going to be a little bit of a hiatus, maybe not as long as it was here for Power Rangers. But what do you think, Stuart? Because they did mention in November is usually the time that we get the new trademarks here. But maybe they're just being a little bit better about the trademark because of all the changes that are happening.
I think that if there is a that would likely mean see. Oh, that was weird. Just like refreshed.
Okay, I hear. Go ahead. Start again. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool. You can still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now. I hear you better now.
Oh, awesome. But where was that? Oh yeah, but yeah, I think that if there is a hiatus, I think that likely that means that they are probably going to be doing the less is more route, and that is producing like less episodes, maybe going back to like 35 from the 70s, or unless they want to go even completely. Because I just thought of this, because like one thing I'm pretty sure is the same in Japan as it is in America is that I'm sure that like in terms of the way they consume media, it's being shifted more towards streaming. So what I think they may also be considering for rebranding is making it more appealing to the streaming audiences, something that they can binge easier. Because I feel like that's probably something that both like kids and adults probably have in common, like all around the globe. So I could see less is more, like less episodes, and them using the hiatus as like kind of a way to to prepare more. So I think that, yeah, there is a good chance we could be getting a hiatus in between seasons. And I think because of that, it'll lead to some, people trying to say this confirms that Super Sentai is canceled, when in actuality, it's just like, no, I'd say it's just, they've closed that chapter and now a new one is, opening. I hate when people say canceled when what's actually going on is a show ends or a show like is getting a rebranding, but they treat it as it's being canceled. It's like, no, that's something very different. But yeah, so I would say that for me, I think that they're going more the streaming route. Not saying it's not going to air on TV, but I think that that's the new audience that they're going to try to appeal to.
I'm glad you brought that up because one of the things, look, I'm 42 years old. I'm about to be 43 here in December. I used to watch Super Sentai religiously, but one of the biggest complaints that I have over the years is like the show goes on forever. Like I don't know if I would be really curious to see what viewership numbers are at from the beginning of a Super Sentai season to the end, because I always tend to like trail off maybe a little bit after that Sixth Ranger gets kind of introduced, because the stories just take so long to tell. And I am kind of curious if by the end, when you do get to that 40 plus episode mark, has their viewership for these shows really trailed off a little bit. And you might be right. The idea of lesser episodes, maybe to try and fit a streaming format, at least still be somewhat bingeable. Maybe that's a possibility for them. I would be really curious to see where they what happens with that. But
Yeah.
let us know your guys' thoughts. How do you guys feel about that? Like, if you had to rebrand Super Sentai, what would be some of your ideas? Right now, we're suggesting lesser episodes, more, taking that next level in storytelling, keeping what's great about Super Sentai, at least in regards to the henshins and the monsters and the Zords and stuff, but maybe appealing more, adding maybe a little bit more drama to appeal to, young adults instead of kids, but yet still being able to, sell toys off of it, with a brand new fresh coat of paint and new name. I would love to know what you guys think in regards to this. So yeah, I don't believe it's being canceled, just definitely rebranded. So give it some time, but it looks like they're very much working on it behind the scenes. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, guys. Ram Jam says I would make it widely global, not just Japan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Which
that
is
would be.
something that I see that, they're doing with Common Rider now with the most recent season, which is cool because now I have a coworker who's like actually like keeping up with it weekly. I've
Nice.
watched the first 4 episodes of it, so I still have to catch up. But it's so cool whenever like I have someone to like actually talk to like about Common Rider, or just something that like that feels so niche for me, but like it's like, oh cool, other people like, and I don't have to go online to find them, other people are interested in this. It's
Yeah,
rare.
yeah, you got to make it globally appealing. And I'm thinking that's where they're gonna go. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below. We got 2 more stories here. Let's see how quickly we can kind of get through some of these. Stuart, The Conjuring is back in the news this week. It had a very successful run at the box office here for The Conjuring Last Rites. In fact, can you bring up the box office mojo and see exactly how much Conjuring Last Rites made? It might actually be in this article, but I do want to confirm it for ourselves here. But look, The Last Rites was in fact sort of campaigned and marketed to be the last story of the Warrens. This was it. Patrick Wilson and his co-host, I can never co-star, I can never remember her name. Irma something, I can't remember her name. Right? Or Verma, I can never remember her damn name. That they were done with the series. They put in their dues. They had 4 films, and The Conjuring was going to be moving forward in the form of like television series, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Stuart, it's not the end. It is not the end. As apparently, according to Variety, there is a prequel movie in the works. That's right. Conjuring is set to go ahead and return with a prequel film. Did you find out what the box office was?
487 million.
Ooh, almost $500 million, dude. How I wonder what the budget was for this movie. It's probably something ridiculously small. I don't know if it says over there or not too. Does it
Oh,
give a budget?
I just closed it out. Hang on.
Oh no, you're good. But yeah, with that type of money, I don't think they're ready to get rid of The Conjuring anytime soon. Let's check this out. Audiences haven't seen the last of the paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who will return in another Conjuring movie. A prequel film is in development at Warner Brothers. The short film director, yada yada yada. Okay. With short film director Rod- Rodriguez Huert, Hart maybe, in talks to direct. Franchise veterans Richard Neng and Ian Goldberg, who co-wrote the two prior films, are on board to pen the screenplay. No deals have closed at this time. The Conjuring Blast Rights was billed as the final installment. However, it quickly became clear that wouldn't be the case after the film became an outsized box office hit, earning $487 million globally. It's unclear whether Verma Farmiga and Patrick Wilson will return for the upcoming cinematic entry after Last Rites concluded the story of the Warren family. This next chapter is to go back to the beginning and focus on the early years of the ghost hunting couple. That likely means that new actors will take over the helm of the Conjuring universe. Separately, The Conjuring is expanding to the small screen with HBO in development of a television series which will continue the story established in future films. Um, look, I have been a really big fan of this franchise. So if they want to make a prequel, I am perfectly okay with it. My ass will be seated in the theaters to check out The Conjuring anything. I would be kind of curious if James Wan is certainly going to return and continue to give his input for this particular franchise. My only concern here is what I've loved about The Conjuring is that these are based off of true stories, or whether or not you believe in supernatural or not. I mean, they are based off of stories from Ed and Lorraine Warren's time, as these, but paranormalists. And so the idea of these movies telling their stories has always made it really enjoyable for me to be able to connect it with, like, quote unquote true events in history. A lot of the stuff that they've hunted or have been in these movies, you can Google and research for yourself all these particular cases. I just hope that a prequel movie is also based on an actual story. I don't necessarily want it to be, hey, we're going to take these characters, but we're going to make an original story that didn't really ever happen to these people just for like a quick cash grab. I'm kind of hoping that there is another story for Ed and Lorraine that they haven't really either publicly publicized or that they have told about, like a case that's out there that they can really kind of tap into to tell this story. So as long as it's based off of a true story that these two people actually went through and experienced at a young age, and whether that be their first case or their second case, I don't know when the Amityville household, but I don't know when the first movie that it focused on, when that took place in their career. But I would assume we're either going to go back earlier than that or around that particular time period. But as long as it's based off of a true life event for them, and it's not just an original made up story, then I'll be perfectly okay with this. But yeah, I'm open to this, man. I mean, it makes sense to me. If this movie made this much money, it's probably going to make just as much in a prequel as well. So let's keep pumping them out, especially if they're relatively good stories, which I thought Last Right was. I thought Last Right was an improvement based off of the third film. And so if we can keep heading in that direction, I'm okay with it. What about you, Stu?
Yeah, okay, so yeah, I do like the idea of a prequel. I think that like the way they kind of like the timeline of the Warrens in general, of like how their stories get told, definitely leaves like a lot of room for like more things that they could fit in. In fact, I think like one honestly that could be done. I don't know because I haven't seen Last Rites. I know that Last Rites had some flashbacks, so I don't know if they already covered this, but I wouldn't mind like actually seeing the flashback of the two of them meeting dating, which we hear about in The Conjuring 2. So we definitely know how they met, but we don't know exactly how they went from, being like someone who met, or two people that met at a movie, to like suddenly now the two of them become paranormal investigators. At least I don't know, because again, I haven't seen The Last Ride, so maybe they explain all that. I don't know, but I do think there are some cool things that you can explore. The part that I think we're going to majorly disagree on is I kind of hope they stop basing these on, quote unquote true events. Because I love the Conjuring franchise. They're fun because the Warrens are very likable people, and the stories that they come up with them are always very creative, and they're just so well directed. It bothers me every time they try to claim that these are true events, and then I'm just like, suddenly it like takes me out of the movie as I'm reminded that I'm watching a movie about con artists. So that's like the thing. I want them to just stop basing these on real stories and just embrace the fictional aspect of it, because I love shows and movies about the paranormal and the supernatural and that kind of stuff. I just feel it's very manipulative to like kind of, and I know that the disclaimer is that we're not saying that it's 100% fact. I know they say that all in the disclaimer and that kind of stuff. But the thing is, people who watch movies wow, I almost said something really stupid there myself. I corrected myself. Thing is, a lot of people who watch movies, and I'm not saying the majority of people, I'm just saying a lot of people who watch movies are dumb, because a lot of people who watch movies are people, and people are dumb. And so they're going to see that these are quote unquote based on real stories, and then they're going to like actually think that this is real. And I don't know. It's just, I don't like the idea of glorifying the Warrens is all that I'm saying. Or glorifying these events and making, especially because like, I think more morally it's dangerous, because then you risk like excusing certain actions from certain people because, oh, well, that person couldn't help when he murdered his wife. He was possessed, it's not his fault. It's like, that's what I feel is the biggest issue with saying that these are true stories, is that now you're excusing really terrible things. So yeah, I hope they so basically I'll watch this prequel because I really enjoy the Conjuring franchise. I just really hope they lay off of the based on the true story. So that's where I think we kind of disagree there, which is fun.
Hey, I learned something new about you today. Listen, I let me ask you then. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you believe in like the supernatural? Or are you just like no, it does not exist?
I'm not like closed-minded on it as of now. I just haven't seen any real evidence, and I've seen videos, of course, of people like showing evidence. But the
That
thing
you're
is, like,
skeptical about.
yeah, exactly. My mind can always come up with an explanation for how this can be done. So
That's
I
fair.
think, until I hear it from a source that I really, really trust, or until I see it for myself, I don't think I'm going to be fully convinced. And it's not because I don't think it's impossible. Obviously, I know the scientific explanation for ghosts. Nothing like matter cannot completely be erased, so which means that, when we die, a part of us, still has to be there. Nothing, matter cannot be like completely destroyed. It's only transformed into something new. So I think that there is a scientific idea behind it. I do think it is possible. It's why that if I ever did see ghosts, like I would be like, oh, okay, so this is real. But I don't think I don't think there's any evidence that I've seen to suggest ghosts
Like
work in the way,
possession
yeah,
or
possession. I've never seen any
like
real evidence of
demonic
possession.
uh-huh,
I've never
uh-huh.
seen evidence of ghosts being able to have any actual physical effect, other than being just kind of like this intangible, like floaty thing. Like I could see people proving that could still exist. But
Mm-hmm.
beyond that, that's about the limit of where I'm at right now.
I get you. Okay, okay. I mean, look, I think that's reasonable, especially if you're a skeptic in that regards. I do think, especially I think when we go into movies, um, while I'm a believer in certain things like that. I do understand that movies exaggerate,
Mhm.
some of the quote unquote factual things that people certainly claim. So I do think that there are certainly elements that are exaggerated. But I'm gonna tell you right now, if somebody whips out a Ouija board, I ain't gonna be in the house.
And that's
Yeah,
totally fair.
yeah, yeah, I ain't gonna be around. But that's cool. Okay, I learned something new about you today here in that regards to it. So I look, man, I value your opinion, and hey, maybe one day, maybe one day.
Yeah. Hey,
I will convert you.
I will. The moment I finally believe in the supernatural and ghosts, I will admit it to everyone here. I've even jokingly said I want to be proven wrong about it at some point. Okay, but you mentioned like, yeah, you see a Ouija board and you're like out of the room. So,
Yes.
have you seen the movie Talk to Me?
Yes.
Okay, I will say this as someone who does not believe in ghosts currently. If I saw what those kids were, if I walked into that party and saw the way like everyone was reacting, the way the person holding the hand was reacting, I wouldn't even want to touch that hand. I'd be like, nope, you've convinced me. I believe you guys. Nope, I am not doing that. I think just like, yeah, I think that if I was in a situation like that, yeah, see, like my mind could be changed.
Okay.
But if I'm like, if I'm in the bedroom and like one of these books were to like fall off the shelf, I'd be like, I feel like there's many explanations for it. Yeah. Maybe not the wind, but I'm like, maybe a minor, really weird glitch, earthquake type of thing.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. But look, guys, the Conjuring prequel movie in the works after a successful box office run. Do you want more Conjuring? Are you cool with this? How would you pull off a prequel? Go ahead and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section box below. And with that, Stuart, we got one last topic we'll get to here real quick. We talked about this a while back, the Call of Duty, that Paramount, after its purchase of, or after Skydance purchase of Paramount, Paramount's just like, we're just going to buy everything right now, okay? Studios, movie rights, I mean, you name it. Paramount is in a position now where they've got an influx of money and they just want to acquire everything. And Call of Duty is one of the things that they purchased. This week, though, we did get ourselves an update that they have, in fact, found their writer and director already. This actually comes to us from Deadline.com. Taylor Sheridan and Peter Berg team on Paramount and Activision's Call of Duty movie. After landing the rights to turn one of the biggest video games into an epic movie, Paramount has landed two A-list filmmakers to develop it. Sources tell Deadline that Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan and Peter Berg have joined Paramount and Activision to develop and produce a Call of Duty movie. The pick will be designed to thrill its massive global fan base by delivering on the hallmarks of what players love about the games, a series of first-person shooters centered on military campaigns while expanding the franchise to entirely new audiences. They will both co-write it, with Berg on board to direct.
I don't know. They said everything we love about the games, but my favorite thing about the game is playing it. So
It says Deadline has been hearing since the summer that Paramount was eyeing these two as collaborators, but Sheridan was still deciding whether he would write the script or just produce. In recent weeks, he felt the need to do both and will now team with Berg. They seem to be perfect fits to bring the project to life given their previous works, specifically when it comes to the military, whether it's Berg's acclaimed Lone Survivor or Sheridan's hit Paramount series Lioness. Both filmmakers have shown how to deliver the goods in the genre. Have you seen any of those, Lone Survivor or Lioness, at all?
No, but I think I know for Lone Survival, I've definitely seen like a thumbnail for on Paramount Plus.
Do you watch Yellowstone at all?
No, I know of it. I know it's like one of the biggest. I forget. Does it air on TV before going to Paramount, or is it straight to Paramount for
I don't
Yellowstone?
know. I don't know. I have to ask Indy. I think Indy watches it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Because yeah, I know that it's like really big with not to call indie old, but I know that it's big with the older audiences.
Yeah, I mean, we're both in our 40s, so yeah, I mean, you might be able to get away with that. But look, I think I've never seen any of their work, honestly. But I think as far as momentum for the Call of Duty movie, I don't think you can have quicker momentum. I mean, the fact that they've picked up the rights, it felt like just last week or 2 weeks ago, and now you've got a writer and the director on board. To me, this simply means like post-production is or pre-production is probably very much underway. screenwriting, several scripts probably in the process of being written right now. Maybe even, well, I don't even know if they're at the point of storyboarding yet, but maybe coming up with costume ideas and things like that. I fully expect pre-production for Call of Duty to move into a much quicker pace here right now. So, and look, I do love great military films. I was always a big fan of the Call of Duty video games. I've kind of fallen off over the past several years, but for the most part, the idea of them, I'd be kind of curious if they adapt a particular campaign from Call of Duty, or if they just come up with their own original story for Call of Duty. Give me a military movie that's good. I'll be there. Like I just one a great film that dropped this year was Warfare, where it was a story from Alex Garland, where he literally took just one particular mission out in Afghanistan during the war. But it was a movie that was written based off of like the soldiers' memories of that day. So he would talk to like all the troops within that regime, talk to the troops that took place in that, had them tell their stories based off of their memories, and then he kind of like wrote the script based around that. And it was just,
Oh.
and it was intense. It was hardcore. You felt like you were there in just that moment. If there was any issue I had with Warfare, was that it was just a moment, that they didn't really explain why they were there, how they got there, what the particular mission was itself. It was just kind of a one moment in time, but it was one of the most intense moments in time like I'd ever experienced. So I'm all for a good wartime film, and I think Call of Duty's is ready for something like that. So we'll see.
Yeah, the thing I'd be the most curious about with this is because when it comes to the game, like the earlier Call of Duty games, like 1 through 3, very much had a very grounded in reality feel. Like it felt like actual warfare, and then
Warfare,
it
right?
wasn't really until you get into the modern warfare franchise where, it still tries to take a mostly grounded approach. In fact, that was kind of like its big selling point, is at the time it was considered like one of the most realistic warfare games at the time. So like, it still had a grounded feel, but they stopped, it stopped being connected to our world because they started introducing new warfare
Right.
that obviously wasn't going on in our world. And that kind of became the new direction of it. And as it kept going, as the games kept having more futuristic warfares, I don't even know if they even kept the same continuity or if every game was like its own universe at a certain point, because I stopped keeping up with them. I would buy them probably, I want to say like every 10 years, I'd buy a new Call of Duty game. But I mean, the last one I bought was in 2020. Yeah, so it's been a while. But that being said, I'd be curious to know what direction this would go in. Is this going to go in the grounded, more serious World War II aspect, or are we going to go in the over the top, advanced warfare? We're in the future type of direction. Like, I'd be very curious to see which one of those two directions they would go on with the video game, or if they go somewhere in the middle, like modern warfare, which is like, it feels like kind of like modern warfare, but with using like a very fictional world, so you don't have to worry about like, how do I put it? You don't have to worry about like offending anyone, or like, you don't have to worry about like, making like any, I don't know,
Stepping on
like,
like just like the political atmosphere that
yeah,
we're in.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whereas like, I feel like if you go in a fictional environment with wars that aren't currently going on, you have a lot more creative flexibility in terms of like the kind of stories you can tell with it.
No, I would agree with you. I think if anything, yeah, that it would be one of the more aspects of the movie I would be interested, is like the time period. Do you go more realistic? Do you go more futuristic? Telling your own different stories. I would be interested in seeing what direction it takes.
The big last thing I'll say is like with Call of Duty, since I don't have an attachment with the overall lore and story, I can judge the show on its own terms instead of having to like compare it to the games. Whereas like, I think one problem a lot of people had with Halo is that it was like, even though it visually looked exactly like the video games, the story went in such a bizarre different direction, and then the characters felt so different from their video game counterparts. No one could judge the show show Halo on its own terms because everyone was too mad about how it differentiated itself from the video game franchise. I don't think anyone has an attachment to the Call of Duty stories because that's not really the selling point of Call of Duty. It's really the multiplayer aspect. So I think that the writers for the Call of Duty show don't have that worry with them as much as they would have had with as they had with Halo.
Call of Duty movie. It's a movie.
Oh yeah.
You kept saying show, but yeah, I just want to clarify.
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting this is a movie. My bad.
Yeah. No, you're good. Yeah, maybe like a Band of Brothers type of thing. Like I would be curious, like if it's a multiplayer thing, do they have how many? Like, is it just solo? Or are they gonna have like a group with them, sort of thing, different personalities? That'd be kind of fun. I'd be interested to see what they do there.
I hope so. I always love the ragtag, war group.
Yeah, I kind of dig it. But yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts as Call of Duty movie lands Yellowstone writers and directors and makes way for pre-production now. But yeah, guys, that will do it for all of our main topics today. And Stuart, I think you know what time it is.
I do indeed. And now, everybody, it is time for live viewer questions.
And we're going to get into the live viewer questions portion of today's show. Get this ready for you guys. Again, if you ever want to go ahead and drop a live viewer question, you can always do so. Usually Saturday afternoons or Saturday evening, we will go ahead and make a post. Just go over to our YouTube channel, click on the tab or the post tab, and voila, you will see live viewer questions. We got 12 comments here today. Let's try and go through some of these relatively quickly if we can. We'll see what time we end with these. But first up, Marcelino Vasquez today. Many people have called Captain Carter a forced industry character. Well, I wonder what that means. It basically refers to a person whose identity and behavior are almost entirely shaped by the demands and ruthless culture of their workplace. A forced industry character is one who has been pushed into this mold by circumstances rather than genuine desire. And you guys have disagreed. That being said, who's a character that you believe is a forced industry character and you hate them for being it? One who has been pushed into this mold by circumstances rather than genuine desire. Man, I'm gonna have to Google this one. Forced what industry character?
Because this is my first.
I've never heard of that term before.
Because if we're talking about like a character who's like is in a position because society forces them into that position, I don't think that's bad writing or necessarily a bad thing way to introduce a character. Because in a way, I think Agent Carter is kind of that, because like she's kind of this person who wants to fight and go out there, but of course society is like, no, you're a woman, you can't fight. And so obviously that would naturally progress her to pushing forward as much as she could and then ending. I don't know, actually. I think I'm really confused by the definition.
Because like when I think of Captain Carter, refers to a person whose identity and behavior are almost entirely shaped by the demands and ruthless culture of their workplace. A forced industry character is one who has been pushed into this mold by circumstance rather than a genuine desire. I guess I'm not understanding.
Let me look up other examples real quick.
Yeah, if Marcelina, if you're still in the comments, do you have any other examples of who? Many people would say Cecile Horton, Allegra Garcia, and Chester from The Flash are all forced industry characters.
Okay, Katniss Everdeen from the Hunger Games, which I get, but I also don't think that's a bad thing. It's like, she's forced to survive, and this leads her to becoming part of the resistance. you can call it forced all you want, but it makes for a good story, I think. Jon Snow. What I mean, he chose to. I don't know if I would agree with Jon Snow because he chose to go to the wall. Uh,
Yeah, Thorson is a character in fiction who is compelled by circumstance, duty, or external pressure to enter or remain a profession, role, or industry they did not initially choose or desire.
oh,
This concept is for tropes like the reluctant hero or a character trapped in a specific role, place, or situation.
the band of Disney executives. And okay,
Okay, well
I thought
that's
what
okay. So
because like
just so we're clear, that is just so we're clear. Then that's not what a forced industry character is. Okay, I think it's like people using the term woke, Stuart. Right? Like
Mhm.
woke has traditionally has always had a completely different meaning, very much similar to forced industry character, whereas it is a character in fiction who is compelled by the circumstance, duty, or external pressure to enter or remain in a profession, role, or industry they did not initially choose or desire. It's considered a reluctant hero sort of
Yeah.
mentality, whereas here they're very much taking that definition and twisting it in the sense of more real world Disney executives and not the same with what the fans. So it's like woke is woke. It's like DEI again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like it's using the term DEI again. In other words, so it's not a true definition of what a forced industry character is. It's just the definition of what these people want to turn this definition into.
Okay. So if we're going by that definition, then sure, I would actually go ahead and use Allegra as an example from The Flash because I mean Eric Wallace has, said that he basically only put her into The Flash because she was a character that he wrote back when he wrote the I can't remember what comic books. Was it Teen Titans? Like did he take over after Jeff Johns? I'm not sure, but like regardless, like that was a character that he wrote that he really enjoyed and wanted to put it and wanted to put her into the Flash. So I guess that would be an example of a character I didn't really like who was by definition a forced industry, or by that definition, not by the original definition, but by this definition, a forced industry character.
He says these people aren't people who scream woke. They're completely same people that you would be friends with, but they're using the definition incorrectly. Let's just be honest. They're using the definition incorrectly. So, um, but yeah, um, um, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I'll let you use that one. I really have no other idea. Do you think we will see Zemo return someday and assemble the Masters of Evil in the MCU, or has that time passed? The Masters of Evil are essentially the Legion of Doom, but the Avengers, and I think it was a missed opportunity that Phase 4 didn't end with an Avengers movie, where Sam Wilson creates his new Avengers to battle Zemo. My version would consist of a mixture of old and new villains: Zemo, Abomination, Ghost, Batroc, Shocker, Scorpion, Black Knight, Baron Mordo, Graviton, and Black Mamba. Some villains would get more development, and some would just be used to set up for future projects. Ghost would be used as a mole operated by Val and set up the Thunderbolts. Moonstone would be set up as a main villain for Captain Marvel movie, and Black Mamba would be set up the Serpent Society and Captain America movie. I know Scorpion is returning for Spider-Man Brand New Day, but at the time we didn't know that, and it was becoming frustrating that he wasn't returning. So I would like to pay off that Homecoming post-credit scene earlier. As for Black Knight, it would be revealed that Dane Whitman's uncle Nathan Garrett is the current Black Knight and is grooming his nephew to take his mantle before ultimately Dane takes the ebony blade for himself because becomes host of the Black Knight mantle and joins the Avengers. I do think Masters of Evil is a missed opportunity. Um, but yeah, I would love to see it. I don't know if do you think the time has passed though? I guess maybe after Secret Wars, it depends on if Secret Wars really reboots the MCU in a certain way. Like, will we get a new Iron Man? Will we get a new Captain America? Or Steve Rogers and things like that. If we do get a soft reboot, then I personally would love the opportunity to see it. I don't know, I would say I don't know why we haven't gotten a Legion of Doom in the DCU yet, but I mean there really has never been steady footing for them to build up to something like that. But I do think a Masters of Evil would be a fantastic storyline after you've kind of established some of these character figures. Because I don't know where Zemo was. Zemo wasn't in. I would have expected Zemo to pop up in Brand New Worlds. Um, he wasn't in that movie at all.
He was
Um,
almost in Thunderbolts
and
because they,
Thunderbolts, yeah, I would have thought he would
yeah.
have popped up in Thunderbolts. He wasn't there either. So I would like to see a Masters of Evil someday. I do think I don't know if the time has passed. I think there's a possibility. It might be slim, but it's really going to be based off of where Secret Wars leaves the MCU.
Yeah.
But I love that idea.
Which, yeah, like Marcelino says here, he was removed because it was going to be that he was behind the whole thing, but it was removed because it came off as too much fan service, which they're not wrong. But I think if any movie earned the right for a little fan service, it's Thunderbolts. I mean, it was a very, like, down to earth, heartwarming kind of movie with a lot of tragedy. I think like with how much they proved that this movie was about story more than spectacle, I think after all of that, you deserve a little cute little fan service after credit scene,
Yeah, and it's not like Zemo's not capable of doing that,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I mean, Zemo is
look at
able to make the Avengers fight against themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I think he's more than capable of having been able to be behind the scenes and pulling the strings. So I would have liked to have seen it for sure. In Batwoman season 1, there was an arc that touched on Crisis by having a doppelganger of Alex who never turned evil show up for a few episodes and give a sisterly bond with Kay. However, it was then revealed that two sets of doppelgangers cannot coexist on Earth Prime, and Kate was forced to choose which Alice to save, and she was ready to let her own sister die to save the doppelganger. But then the doppelganger gets killed by August Cartwright anyways, who was played by John Emmett Tracy. What did you think of the arc? I personally liked it. Batwoman was the newest show at the time, so it was a great way to acknowledge the crisis without getting into much depth with it.
I thought it was very, very weird that her sister Mary was in on the whole Alice doppelganger thing, but she still didn't know that Kate was Batwoman. So I thought that whole part of the story was where things started to feel very disjointed with Batwoman. I thought the arc as a whole was all right. I kind of like the idea of it gave you kind of like a little bit of false hope, and then of course she ends up getting killed at the end, which meant that like the one chance Kate had of being reunited with Alice kind of goes away. But yeah, I thought it was an all right arc. It was just the part where they involved Mary with that, but they still didn't let her in on being Batwoman. That was, I don't know why, that just bothered me so much, and it made it so hard for me to immerse myself with that arc.
We also got thank you very much, Marcelino, for your questions, man. I appreciate it. Marky Parco since the arrival of Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine highly suggests that the X-Men could be introduced to the MCU with a multiverse concept serving as the likely catalyst for the integration, whether through the wholesale merge of realities or the arrival of established variants. Rumors indicate that Marvel Studios is laying the groundwork for the next saga to focus on mutants, with the main X-Men team potentially debuting after the Secret Wars event. Given that Fantastic Four, which sets up a retro-futuristic version of Earth 828 and quickly moves past the origin story, established a new separate universe, a similar approach could be taken for the X-Men reboot to avoid clashing with the existing MCU continuity and allow for a fresh foundation. Would an X-Men film set in an alternate established timeline allow for more creative freedom than one strictly on the main Earth 616? Do you think the MCU's version of the X-Men would be a newly formed team or already established one that crosses over?
I think that yes, it would give them the writers more creative freedom if they weren't restricted to the MCU universe. Um, However, personally, because then you have to have like some, I mean, I guess you could just have like kind of a do what they do in Power Rangers, just give everyone a remote that lets them travel between dimensions. But I mean, it just kind of, I feel like the problem with doing that is that then crossovers either become more difficult because then you have to come up with a creative way for them to cross over with each other, or you come up with a really simplified explanation of how they can cross over each other, and then suddenly the multiverse just loses all like meaning, basically, or all basically the multiverse just becomes really boring and just kind of, just a boring excuse to bring different characters together. So personally, I would prefer they just stuck them into the 616 MCU. But I also do see that argument of I won't deny that they would have a lot more creative freedom if they weren't in the MCU,
Yeah, I think First Steps did immediately establish that if we do set a team in an alternate universe, I mean, the creative freedom that we have is astounding. I mean, we can create whatever we want to, not have to worry about stepping on anybody's toes, sort of thing. But I do think after Secret Wars, they really want to keep Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Avengers all within the same universe. So I am very much under the impression that after Secret Wars, it's gonna be strictly on the main Earth in 616. I don't know how much history is going to be rewritten at that time, sort of thing. But my understanding is that they they'll all be on the same Earth together. Um, do you think the MCU's version of X-Men should be newly formed team or an already established one that crosses over? I think it's a newly formed team that maybe has some history already. Like I will be curious as to see like after Secret Wars, how does this work out, right? Will the history of 616 have been changed after what happens in Secret Wars when this new world is kind of formed from all these other alternate, all these other worlds? um is it now like mutants have been around this whole entire time and they do have some sort of a back history? Is that like one of the elements of the 616 world that will have changed? Or will the X-Men sort of be the first iteration of mutants on this world? I really have no idea, but if I had to guess, I would say that it's just a newly formed team and not sort of an established one that's gotten sucked into this world. I really don't know, man. I really don't know, Stuart, because the impression that I'm under is like when we get to Secret Wars, I don't know if that Fox universe is gonna be gone. Like, will the Fox universe people only be in Doomsday? Will they get killed off in Doomsday? When we get Secret Wars, will they introduce us into um the new group of X-Men that will then, after the soft reboot, will then be thrusted into the MCU? Or when we get to the MCU, like, is it just new characters? Like, will the X-Men movie be the first time that we see these brand new X-Men characters?
Yeah, I do not know. Honestly, I think you know what it feels like. Why it feels like the MCU at this point is more unpredictable than it's been in the past. It kind of feels like we don't know, and neither do the
Do they?
producers. Yeah, like I think they have ideas. I don't know if they have a solid idea. They have a solid plan, though. I think they have ideas, but not a plan. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, man, we'll have to see. Appreciate the question, Marky.
I think they're
Uh,
really just going to wait to see what the reception is on Avengers Doomsday before making changes going forward.
my friends call me Joseph. What do you feel about the rumored phasing out of certain PS4 online features for new game submissions starting in spring 26? Though not a complete server shutdown, underscores the console's approaching obsol uh, obsolescence. I could be butchering that word. And the industry's push towards PS5 generation. This development highlights a persistent frustration in modern gaming. The enjoyment of a console is now intrinsically linked to its server life cycle, a departure from the timeless offline focused play of earlier eras. While the PS4 served as a crucial bridge during the early PS5 shortage, the market is now accelerating its shift, further challenged by the rising capabilities of gaming PCs and handhelds. This frustration is palpable, driving some of the PlayStation community to modify older consoles for greater control and offline play, actively pushing back against the reliance on online services. As hardware cycles shorten and online connectivity dominates, does the inevitable end of life cycle for beloved platforms like the PS4 make the convenience of modern online gaming ultimately not worth the loss of permanent access to the experience? So I'll you might know more than this because I don't game like I used to. Okay,
Mhm.
it's been a minute since your boy gamed. And even when online access was available to me to do multiplayer, look, I my whole life I grew up with offline games where I can focus on single player stories, two-player stories, people in my household if I wanted to, but always have that ability to not rely on having to be online. I could just legit turn on my console, put on my game, play my game.
Yeah.
Um, so the fact that it is becoming more online focused, whether that means like more multiplayer is forced upon you, or just the idea of like you have to be online in order to even play these games, like that's crazy to me if that's the concept behind it. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of out of the gaming industry in that regards to maybe truly understand this. But what do you think, Stuart?
Yeah, I low key hate the way the direction the modern gaming industry has been going like for a
Like, is it
while now.
forcing you to
Um,
play on like, is it forcing you to play the game in an online environment, or, like, does it mean you have to be online
mhm.
in order to play the game?
It depends on the games. There are still publishers that will release games, the traditional way. But like several things that, there are some games that yes, you can technically play without internet access, but the problem is like a lot of modern games, I think like Cyberpunk 20 was it 2079 or something like that. Cyberpunk and then No Man's Lands are like kind of the two biggest examples is that nowadays like you get publishers releasing full price games that aren't even finished and they rely on the fact that you have internet so that they can constantly fix the game like as you're playing it, making it a
Mm,
better experience. And I absolutely hate that. Like we should not be releasing games that aren't
mhm.
finished and then charging people for the full experience later on.
That's
So there's things,
crazy.
so things like that happen all the time with gaming. And then you also have like a lot of games that do fully rely on online access to be able to play, even if there is an offline mode for that game. And then when the server shut down for that game, you can no longer play it, which is something that people have had a huge issue with within the gaming industry. There was this whole thing that people were trying to get signatures for, basically to bring it to Congress's attention, which is the idea of like, game publishers should not be allowed to do this. It needs to go back to when you buy a game, you own that game, but it hasn't been like that in so long. Nowadays, if you buy a game, you're really just buying a digital code to download the game, even if you get a physical copy. I think Battlefield, the most recent battle was on the
Oh,
disc itself, because that doesn't happen anymore. Nowadays, when you get a disc, that disc is a key to download the game offline. You can't like actually install the game without internet access, because
that's
they
so
don't want you to
crazy.
own the game.
That's
Yeah,
so
game
fascinating.
companies want to own the games that you buy, and so therefore, when they decide they want to shut down the servers, you're done. You can't play the game anymore. Yeah, I hate the way, and again, that's not me saying I hate modern games. That is not the case at all. Just look at the embarrassing amount of time I put into Baldur's Gate 3, and you will know that I do not hate modern games. But I absolutely hate the modern gaming industry, though. I absolutely think it like game companies are morally corrupt in so many ways, and we're getting to a point where it's almost becoming like easy for kids to gamble nowadays. We get like the microtransactions, which alone are debatably gambling, but I wouldn't call them gambling. I would say that there's a debate that they can be called gambling, though, even if I myself would not personally call it that. But we are now getting to a point where it's like you have so many because like of the fact that we have so many apps that are like this, and now they're trying to like kind of those apps are kind of becoming like more game like going on. These apps are basically gambling apps, but they hide it by saying, well, you're not using money, you're using money to buy digital coins, which can then be turned into money. So it is gambling. They just don't call it that. And that's how they get away with it, through stupid legal loopholes that just, someone needs to freaking call them out on. But yeah, there are so many things I hate about it, but I think the biggest concern I have is that, soon, it's going to be, we're going to be getting less releases of big gaming titles, and they're going to be focusing more on the games that they can release once, make it very like okay-ish with promises that it gets better over time. But really, they just want you to pay for more microtransactions in order to make the game a better experience for yourself. And they don't want, they know when they release these games that like, 90% of everyone who plays them are going to get bored of it immediately, and maybe they'll spend like 30-40 bucks on microtransactions. What they count on is the same thing as the alcohol industry. They count on that 10% that are going to get addicted and that are going to spend an ungodly amount of money going into debt on those games. That is what they rely on. That is what their big business tactic is. Sorry,
Man,
I could ramble about this forever.
No, it's okay. I don't even want to buy a system anymore now. Thanks, Stuart. I don't even want to. It's just like, first off, it's just a gaming system is just expensive as it is. I don't even know what a game is gonna cost. But like, if I got to get a game that's not complete, and then I still got to pay more in order to get more of the game, like, no, I don't know if that makes me old school, or if I'm just somebody like I just don't want to be ripped off. Like if I buy a game, I want to be able to put it in, turn on the power, and play the game. And if I want to go online, I have that option, but I don't need it in order to play the game. Like, that's all I want. That's all I want.
See,
Is
Adam,
that so hard to ask?
the thing is, you and I, we grew up in a time where that's how the gaming industry worked, where you buy a game like on PC or PlayStation and you play it. What's so weird to think about, though, is that now there are kids growing up thinking that this is the norm for video games. Like, this is how video games have always been. And it's just like, no. And because like those kids are going to grow up to become adults, and those adults are going to be part of this gaming industry. So I don't see it getting any better. I see it just getting worse over time.
It might be. I mean, it might be like new territory for somebody to come in and be like, "Hey guys, I've got a great new idea. What if we just completed a game, right? And then we sold it to people."
And once that person bought the game, it's theirs.
It's theirs. People be like, I don't know about that one. Like, that's so crazy. That's so crazy to me, dude. Wow. Okay.
Heck yes. Jailbroken PS3s are the best.
Yeah, they are the best. AJ, the Morphing Grid, RPM, a modern reinvention of Power Rangers Turbo. While both seasons share
Sorry, I didn't expect that.
While both share a vehicle theme, RPM, the final season of Disney era adapted the lighthearted Go Launcher, offered a drastically different and more cohesive take, often being considered a modern reinvention of Turbo. RPM took place in a unique post-apocalyptic world where the machine empire and the evil computer virus Venjix serve as incredible non-comedic threat, unlike Turbo's often goofy villains. The vehicle theme was seamlessly integrated. The Ranger suits were designed with car features like seatbelts, like torso, and wheel-equipped gauntlet boots that play tire sounds each time they run really fast. Their base was a garage. The characters like Red Ranger Scott and Black Ranger Dylan were avid fast car enthusiasts, giving them traits that naturally fit the theme, which was a marked improvement over Turbo's random transition of characters like Tommy Oliver, who went from passionate martial artist to race car driver. Moreover, RPM featured compelling meta commentary and referential humor, even subtly hinting at a dark fate for past Rangers with discovery of Operation Overdrive's Red Ranger helmet in the ruins of Alphabet Soup building in the episode, Ancient History. The team also dealt with its unique Green Ranger, the initial non-physical Ziggy Grover, by directly acknowledging the necessity of training and permanent nature of the Ranger technology, a level of critical thinking absent in Turbo regarding Justin. Does Power Rangers RPM function less as a simple adaptation or more as a spiritual successor that took Turbo's core theme and built a darker, more critically aware, and ultimately more acclaimed story?
Like, I kind of get where you're going, where you're coming from, but no, I think they are way too they're way too different for me to see it as like kind of a revamp of Turbo. I feel
Turbo.
like if they wanted to do a revamp of Turbo, they would still stick with like kind of the similar villains. Like maybe even if they wanted to like have a darker tone with the villains, they still would have stuck with, you know, pirates as the main villains instead of a computer virus. But that being said, that was pretty fascinating to see some similarities I'd never seen before. I freaking love RPM though. That is one of the most incredible seasons. I mean, I think it is my favorite season.
The most talented man in the world. The John Wick franchise is a modern action series praised for its choreography, cinematography, and world building with over $1 billion in worldwide box office sales. In contrast, the spin-off film Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas, received mixed commercial receptions despite positive reviews. The film's underperformance about whether its female lead was a factor alongside budget and Keanu Reeves' supporting role. Other actors like high production costs and delays may have contributed more to its muted success than the lead's gender. Do you think the main film installments and their success might suggest audiences are more invested in the original character? It's unclear if a lead gender played a role in Ballerina's box office performance. In other words, some viewers thinking having a female lead is a sign of a woke political agenda. But the question is, do you think the main film installments and their success might suggest audiences are more invested in the original character?
Possible. I also wonder if part of the problem was that it didn't get a wide enough release because we didn't even get it at our theater. I forgot that the movie came
Really?
out. Yeah, it's really weird. I feel like it had a very quiet kind of release in, you know, in theaters. But yeah, I don't know why it didn't do as much apart from that. I
You know, if
you
I
know
oh go
no
ahead.
no
Sorry,
no
sir.
no go for it.
No, I was just gonna say, I saw the movie and I enjoyed it. I thought it certainly belonged in the John Wick family. I don't know if it was as good as a John Wick movie itself, but I thought Ana de Armas was good. Some of the elements in the movie really intrigued me. There is a cool kind of story and reveal for the Ana de Armas character in here. You would think the addition of John Wick would maybe help bolster it. I think that was maybe their hopes. Maybe they saw the script and they thought, what would make this movie better? Let's inject some John Wick into it, which they did, and it certainly did help the film out. Um, I mean, I enjoyed it. It did feel like a spin-off movie in that regards, but there probably could have been more to help elevate the movie a little bit more. Honestly, it was okay. I enjoyed it. Like, I would be curious to see how Donnie Yen's character is going to do in his own movie. That's going to be its own kind of story, certainly, to be told. I don't know if the movie fails because of a a female lead and woke political, agenda or whatever the case may be. I don't think that hurt. It's just because Ana de Armas herself is a well recognized and really, I mean, she's a really good actress. I thought she did really well in this movie. I just still think I still think there's a quality issue about Ballerina that just isn't up to par per se with the John Wick movies. Um, themselves. So I don't know if it's the idea that they can't get more invested in other characters outside of the original characters, so much as I just think the story needs to be better, honestly.
Yeah, I had to see it first to say for sure. But here's the thing. Like I don't think having a female lead in a action movie kills it at all, but it does tend to mean that that movie has to be a lot better than a movie starting a male lead. Because I feel like when it's a female lead, people are a lot harsher on it, and they tend to bring up criticism that they wouldn't have brought up if it was a male lead. So I think that might be part of it, and I think like the other thing too is like the first John Wick movie had such a fascinating hook where like a guy wants revenge because his dog is killed and you can't tell if it's being played for laughs or not until you like actually watch the movie. Now we kind of know the character of John Wick, and the reason we stuck with him was because we grew really attached to him. I think the problem was with our character in Ballerina, we didn't know much about her, and the hook that they gave us in the trailer wasn't as compelling as it was for the first John Wick movie.
Right.
So I think this movie, if it was going to do the success of the first John Wick movie, as bad it is, as much as I hate to say it, I think this movie could have only done better than John Wick, like financially, or as good, like not even better. I think this movie could have only been on par with John Wick if it was better than John Wick.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I agree. Um, Peg C, with the rumors of Super Sentai being on the verge of being canceled or rebranded, which do you think will be the likely scenario? Should they go the rebranding route by a different name with a name I suggested on TikTok, Superhero Tyson?
What's Tyson mean?
They did have some crossover under that name.
Ooh, battle or fight or great war. So the new so superhero battle, like, or superhero like
Hero
ready to
War.
fight. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's okay. I can see that working as as a rebrand.
Um, was she like it's a likely scenario? I definitely the rebrand for sure. I do dig the name though also, or to be an exclusive streaming service exclusive like Crunchyroll, or just ride off into the sunset. No, I mean I think you should give the rebrand a different name, and I think there should be some sort of like attempt for a global appeal for an audience for sure.
Yeah,
So
don't make
yeah,
it a
give me a
don't
streaming service
hopefully not like a streaming service exclusive, but
exclusive.
hopefully it does go onto a streaming service. That would be my hope. Not that it's an exclusive, but that it is on streaming services as well.
What are your thoughts on the Crash Bandicoot being turned into an animated series?
You know, okay, so I've only played like the original Crash Bandicoot back on the first PlayStation, and it's fun, zany. I think there's a lot of potential for it. I don't have enough of a connection though with the franchise to say whether or not it's a good idea, but from a surface level, yeah, it looks like it's the perfect brand for a cartoon series.
Hold on a
Oops.
second.
Are you? I can hear you, but you're frozen.
Yeah, hold on a second. Sorry, I was answering my girlfriend. She asked me a question.
Oh,
Sorry,
gotcha.
I'm back. Which is your favorite Batman animated movie, Mask of Phantasm or Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker? I have not seen Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker. So I would
Really?
say, yeah, Mask of Phantasm. I would say I haven't finished the Batman Beyond series, so that's probably why I never tackled the movie itself.
Okay, sorry. Two-part question. Okay, so you haven't finished Batman Beyond. Have you finished though the animated shows Justice League and Justice League Unlimited?
Maybe Justice League. It's been maybe the first Justice League. Yeah, I don't know if I've done Unlimited though.
Ooh, okay. So if you ever do decide to get like, into it and do like kind of a binge of some sort, which I highly recommend because the Justice League animated show it holds up, man. I think that like it's one of the most incredibly written shows for kids like out there. It still holds up. But if you ever do make sure you do not finish at least do not finish the second season or first season. I cannot remember. Do not watch the episode titled Epilogue of Justice League Unlimited until you finish Batman Beyond, because there is a big twist at the end of that episode that ties directly into Batman Beyond. And oh my god, it is so good. It is one of the best written episodes of an already amazingly written show. So yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah.
All right, maybe I'll do that. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've probably have watched some episodes of Justice League Unlimited just because I think maybe around the time it was released, I was really big into the DC animated television shows on. But I don't, I don't recall. Maybe I'm thinking about the first Justice League series. Um, but I don't know. They kind of all blend together after a while for me.
Yeah. So what was so funny for me is that, like, as a kid, like, I grew up watching the Justice League. I believe it was on Toonami at one point, but then they kind of just moved it to Cartoon Network's regular time block. But between Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, that was when my family was moving, so we didn't have cable for a little bit. And then then we had, like, the next year after Justice League ended, we had Justice League Unlimited. I stopped watching Justice League Unlimited. I stopped watching because I thought I missed so much, because Justice League, it was 7 characters. Justice League Unlimited, it's like over 80 characters are in the show. But somehow they make it work, which is like incredible when you have like a show where literally you have like a team of like almost 100 superheroes, and yet it still manages to keep itself like character focused in ways that you just like are just like kind of unbelievable. Yeah, sorry. I love these shows so much. So it's like, I highly recommend them if you're ever interested in looking for something new to binge.
All right, I'll check it out. Let's try and fly through some of these. I think I might have to go and help somebody out.
Oh, gotcha.
Nathaniel, do you agree that live action comic book films can successfully adapt stories from animated series episodes without becoming too dense? A short, focused narrative from an animated episode often provides a perfect blueprint for self-contained cinematic plot. A prime example is Massive Phantasm, which grew from an idea of Batman, an animated series episode, into a critically acclaimed movie. Furthermore, the inclusion of the mysterious gray ghost in the Batman animated episode influenced the character arc for Batman's own inspiration in Batman Begins. Could a future Spider-Man film adapt the Man-Spider mutation storyline from the 90s animated series as a truly terrifying B plot?
That's what I
You
was
know,
hoping they were going to do, because they brought in the Punisher.
yeah, I mean, I even see like Clayface. The Clayface movie, I think, is based or at least inspired off of the Batman animated series episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think it's a possibility. You just got to pick the right one. I don't know if a man spider mutation storyline for a movie, but who knows? I mean, maybe we don't know what the next 2 installments for Tom Holland's thing is gonna be, but maybe you could go a different route for Spider-Man. But no, I do think in general, I would love to see live action comic book movies adapt storylines from animated series.
Yeah.
Next up, Blossom. Super Sentai canceled. And Nathaniel, thank you very much for your question. If this is in fact your very first question, but I really do love that concept. I would love to see them do that a little bit more often. Super Sentai canceled, says Blossom. Holy static. Is this true? If it is, how the heck am I going to make more Rangers with my friends after 50 years? I never thought I'd see the day. I hope it's just a crazy rumor. I mean, geez, oh, Jody. Yeah, don't worry, Blossom. Not canceled, just maybe on a hiatus as they rebrand. Just may look a little bit different, but I wouldn't worry. Sam, hey guys, you okay? Yeah, I'm good. New trailer for Power Rangers Beast Hunter is out now, and it's episode 1 on 14th of November. Okay, I'll have to check that out. On the 14th of November. And 2, what if The Lost Boys makes a 4th film? What are your thoughts about it? Because they've done 2 and 3rd, The Tribe and Thirst.
I didn't even know they had a third one. I knew they had a sequel, but yeah,
Yeah,
if they make a 4th one, I'll binge. Excuse me. If they make a 4th one, I'll binge 2 and 3 so I can watch it.
yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'll have to check that out. But yeah, Power Rangers Beast Hunters is out now. It's episode one on the 14th of November. I'll have to check out the trailer. I'll have to YouTube that one. I'm assuming that's like a fan made series.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
looking at it now. Looks pretty cool.
okay.
Yeah, they use the Sentai show with the animal designs on the chest, and also like kind of the animal themed helmets.
Badass.
Yeah.
Jessica Friedman, with the kind of reboot. Oh, with the King of the Hill reboot getting more seasons, do you think Hulu would pick up Futurama for more seasons?
Um, I think like I guess if it does well, if it's doing well, then yes. I don't think necessarily King of the Hill would be a factor into it since they're two very different shows. But I don't see why they wouldn't if it's still a success.
Do you think Superman and Lois would be better off going to HBO Max to get a fifth season? Yeah, that show is just not going to happen anymore, Jessica, unfortunately. The idea of a fifth season on HBO Max would be pretty badass, but the days of a show being canceled and maybe picked up on HBO Max to continue, especially with the direction that James Gunn is going right now with his DCU. Yeah, the Superman and Lois show has ended and served its time. So yeah, wouldn't
Yeah.
expect anything more.
Would have loved to have seen what it would have looked like, with an HBO Max kind of budget. But I am really, really happy the show at least got to end on its own terms, and like give us probably the most closure any show has ever given anyone. Like it literally closes everything.
Yeah, for real.
uh,
Kenneth, what's up, Kenneth? Maybe first time question. I appreciate you coming through, Kenneth, with the question. What do you remember about James Gunn's 1997 film Titanic? The movie masterfully intertwines the fictional, doomed romance of Jack and Rose with a real life tragedy of the Titanic sinking, helping to keep the historical event relative for a new generation. Despite its length, 3 hours and 7 minutes. Yeah, that was like maybe the longest one at the time I've ever seen. It became a massive cinematic legacy, and although director Cameron was initially hesitant to include Celine Dion's hit song "My Heart Will Go On," fearing it would minimize the urgency of the victims, the song became an iconic part of the film's success. Could the film's extensive runtime have been deliberate narrative choice to immerse the audience in the time frame, mirroring the 2 hours and 40 minutes it took the actual ship to completely sink? I feel like James Cameron has talked about this before. I don't I just can't remember if he said he purposely did it that way or not. Um so I don't know if it was a deliberate narrative choice, but if I know James Cameron, there's a part of me that kind of would say yes to this.
yeah.
Because I feel like he's a Titanic and just ocean buff that I think he would probably try and do something like that. I don't know if if it was a deliberate narrative choice, but if I had to guess, a part of me would say yes.
Remember, his name is James Cameron, explorer of the sea, with a dying thirst to be the first. Who's that? It's him, James Cameron.
Tony Robinson, if Hasbro gained big success from Power Rangers Disney Plus series, do you think Hasbro will put more money into the franchise going forth?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think once they know that they can profit from it, yeah, it'll go back to kind of not saying it'll go back to the 90s, but it'll definitely go back to them prioritizing the
The
merchandising
brand.
aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll definitely bump up their priorities for sure. Do you guys see Lantern, Supergirl, and Clayface can show the complainers that they can be different tones, even though James Cameron's in charge? I'm hoping so. I'm really hoping so. While I enjoyed Superman, don't get me wrong, there were definitely James Gunn isms in that movie, and after Peacemaker, after Superman, I need a refresher. Like I just need something that, not that it's a bad taste in my mouth, but I need a new taste in my mouth. And I am hoping that something like Supergirl, Lanterns, and Clayface really do bring the different types of tones to showcase that they can just be as wildly successful without James Cameron initially attached. They need to be, but there's a part of me that when it comes to the DCU, I'm ready to see what these characters look like through somebody else's lens.
I absolutely love the fact that in the previous question you read James Cameron as James Gunn, and
Did
now in
I?
this one you read James Gunn as James Cameron.
Oh no! Thank
That
you.
is, oh my gosh, that's just hilarious. But yeah,
I
no,
didn't realize that. Dang it!
uh,
Thanks for clarifying that for me.
no worries. But yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I definitely want to see these in a new lens, which is something that James Gunn has been. See, I almost said Cameron now. Something that James Gunn like did say that was going to be a thing, that he wants these to have a very different tone, different vibe. So pretty much, let me put it this way: at the end of 2026, if Clayface, Supergirl, I feel like that's going to have a much I don't think it's going to feel like a James Gunn movie per se, but I do see it having a more zany vibe than
Yeah,
Clayface and
more fun
Lanterns.
vibe. Yeah.
But that being said, if I'm wrong, if Lanterns and Clayface both just end up feeling like Superman and Peacemaker in the same way, or it just feels like James Gunn writing, then I will finally be like, James Gunn might be full of shit now. He's a man who's talented, but he's clearly full of shit. But again, I don't think that's the case, because I feel like he's smart about what he tells the press, and I don't think he'd be telling them that about how different the tones are going to be. I don't think that he would make that a focus on, because I feel like whenever he talks about these other projects, he always is sure to say that this is going to be director specific visions, basically, and that he wants them to have a very different tone, a different vibe. And I don't think he would be specifying those things if he was lying, or if he had more control over these movies than he originally was letting on. So I personally think that yes, it will show audiences that, like, yes, just because James Gunn is in charge, he's not basically a control freak. He's not controlling other people's projects. They are still their projects.
Yeah, I agree. I hope so too. And then lastly, when do you guys think Marvel will reveal who Sadie Sink is playing in Spider-Man Brand New Day?
When does that movie come out?
Um, looks like July 31st.
Ooh. So definitely not. They definitely won't wait till Comic-Con. I think
I don't
given
think I don't. Oh, go ahead. What do you think?
if they reveal it at all, it'll be like the week before the first trailer comes out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if they'll be the ones to reveal it so much as the trailer will reveal it. So there's a part of me that says when the first teaser trailer drops, we'll maybe get some clarity on it. But outside of that, I don't think they'd come out unless like something's leaked and revealed. I have a feeling that they'll wait for the first trailer to drop and maybe it'll be revealed in there. So yeah, first trailer for me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you so much, Tony Robinson, for all your questions and everybody for all your live viewer questions here this week. Fantastic as always, guys. But that will do it for today's show. Again, every Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, we'll post a live viewer question post. Just go over to our YouTube page, click on that post tab, and you should certainly find it there. And while you're over on our YouTube site, do us a big favor also, man. Go over to that uh, our page, like the videos, subscribe to the channel. It definitely does go certainly a long way. And we appreciate everybody that helps you know, uh, help provide monetary help to the channel each and every week as well. So we all certainly appreciate you guys. But Stuart, that will do it for today's show, man. Thank you so much for being here with us. We'll definitely be back next week. Also, we are getting towards the end of the year. So we usually have two videos that we come up towards the end of the year, maybe sometime in December, usually looking back and ranking our top 5 most anticipated movies of the year that we were looking forward to all this year. We'll probably rank them and see how that turned out for us. And then we'll also be doing a top 5 most anticipated for 2026 as well. So expect those videos probably sometime in December, but we'll definitely be looking forward to that for you guys. But any last comments, Stuart? And where can people find you on social media?
You guys can find me at TurboStew01 over on Instagram, TikTok, and Letterbox.
Awesome. And if you guys want to follow us on social media, right over here or over here somewhere over here, yeah, on this side at Hero Report. on TikTok if you want, and then mostly on social media right here at A Plus Opinions. Very active over on our Facebook page. That's where we usually drop all the news throughout the week, whether that be new articles with information, new discussion topics, trailers, posters, featurettes, behind the scenes stuff. Our Facebook page is definitely the place to check us out at, and most importantly here on our YouTube page. Like the video, subscribe to the video, share these videos, clip these videos, whatever you guys want to do. It certainly does help out. And then everywhere else at A Plus Opinions. But we'll certainly be back here next weekend for you guys. Until then, do us a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A Plus. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.